Okay.
Call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Monday, August 24th, 2015 Board of Selectmen meeting of the Town of Falmouth. I invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, our agenda are some announcements. I'd like to start with the following announcements. That we do have some vacancies on town committees. In the Affirmative Action Committee, we have 3 positions. Affordable Housing Committee, we have 2 positions. Agricultural Commission, 2 positions. The Building Code Board of Appeals, 2 positions. The Cable Advisory Committee, 2 positions. Cape Light Compact, 1 alternate position. Conservation Commission, 2 alternate positions. The Cultural Council, 7 positions. Design Review Committee, 2 alternate positions. Energy Committee, 3 positions. Historic Districts Commission, 1 position and 1 alternate position. Historical Commission, 2 positions. Human Services Committee, 3 positions. Recreation Committee, 2 positions. Substance Abuse Commission, 6 positions. And the Water Quality Management Committee, 1 position. The deadline for submitting applications is Friday, September 4th, 2015. And you may get applications from our town website, www.falmouthmass.us, or at the office of the Board of Selectmen, Town Hall Square. Any other announcements from other board members or from Mr. Suso?
No, sir.
All right, next item is public comment. And if anyone has any public comment they'd like to make on an item that's not on our agenda, please do so. Mr. Finneran.
Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. I'd just like to point out for the people out there that in the last week or so, Mashpee had their MEP plan accepted, and they decided to use oysters to clean 5 of their 8 estuaries at a construction savings of about $140 million. Last week I attended the Mara Vista Improvement Association, and members of our Water Quality Committee were there, and they told us that the oysters in Little Pond as they were grown weren't going to help Little Pond as a whole. While that may be true, the reality is they only grew 3/10 of an acre in a 45-acre pond. If you take the numbers that they achieved, you could clean Little Pond, take care of all the summer load with 4.5 acres of oysters, and that would have been no sewering, no inlet widening. I'd just like to point out again that we rushed into this sewering plan, and it's strictly a revenue-raising apparatus, if nothing else. We're also told that the grinder pumps, the town can't service them on private property, so they're the homeowner's problem. Well, in fact, on Martha's Vineyard, they keep numerous grinder pumps available, and if you have a problem with yours, you just call the sewer department. They come right over, grab the rope, pull it up, change it, and you're done. They're out of there in no time. So that is actually untrue. And I'd just like to point out that a lot of things we've been told just aren't completely accurate, from the meeting at Little Pond to the oysters not performing, to the grinder pumps not being able to be maintained by the town. It's too bad. We seem to have a bunch of Pinocchios running the show, and it costs the taxpayer money that it shouldn't have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Hayward?
Mr. Jones, I'm sorry I came in a couple minutes late and I only heard the end of your notice of boards and commissions that had spaces for applicants. You did, I think, end it by saying the deadline is the 3rd of September, or
Friday, September 4th.
Friday, September 4th. I want to, I guess I'm not supposed to ask you questions. Is that a real deadline? Is it not correct that someone can come in and get an application at any time and file the application, perhaps you were referring to a date when you're going to hold hearings. I had never known that there was a deadline for handing in applications. I always thought it was a 12-month, a year thing, and maybe I'm correct. So I need some clarification on that for my own communicating with people suggesting that they make an application for a commission or committee position.
When we
Thank
post
you.
the positions, we do put a deadline so that people know when they're going to be acted upon. So for the ones that have been posted right now, the deadline is September 4th. If we get applications before then, they will then act upon them and then have to repost after that with a new deadline. And we keep reposting, keep putting new deadlines. The new deadlines are about every month if there are positions available. If all positions were filled, we wouldn't have to do that, but we keep a new deadline for every time when positions are still
All
available.
right, thank you. I'm actually unaware of the deadline.
Any other announcements? Okay. We have minutes of the August 10th meeting, 2015, public session.
I move approval and move approval.
August 10th.
Right.
Second.
Okay, I did have one question on page 10. And this is just to clarify something Mrs. Flynn said. That on the Lowe's project in Dennis, this is an item number 6. You said there were about 39 hours of hearings. Most citizens appear to be in favor of it. Is that? I thought you had said
Where?
that.
Right here.
Fourth paragraph.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, no, we're not. I'm glad you caught that. It was difficult to determine because at some hearings there was maybe a few more in favor, and the next hearing there would be a considerable number against. So you can't really add up the pros and the cons. I would say
So the citizens
mostly-
appear to be split on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. That's more appropriate if you could change it to that.
Correction is that the citizens appear to be split on this, and she would have found it helpful for the Dennis Board of Selectmen to provide their opinion to the Cape Cod Commission. Okay. All right. So with that, I'd like to make that correction. We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next, we have executive session on item 1, the litigation discussion of wind turbine from August 10th,
I move approval of the executive session.
and not release.
August 10th and not release.
We have a motion to approve and not release. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And the executive session, item 2, to consider terms and conditions of lease with Steamship Authority.
I move approval of the minutes of the executive session, second executive session, and not release.
Second.
Motion second to approve and not release. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Next, under summary of actions. First is to approve some special one-day wine and malt liquor licenses for the Falmouth Theater Guild, Highfield Theater. I just couldn't remember what the limit on how many one-day liquor licenses we can approve any one year. Was it 12 or 20? I thought there was one for anyone in the organization. I thought there was only a certain number of one-day liquor licenses an organization could apply for.
I don't recall
Okay.
that there was, but I don't think anybody has ever, although this is a considerable number, but I
I
don't think it
think there's
reaches.
12 there.
I remember when the Seacoast Shores did it, that they had to be
Really?
aware of how
That
many
what-
in one-day liquor licenses they could have. Well, maybe we can approve it conditionally that they are not above that number.
Okay, that's good.
So moved.
Okay, this is for special liquor licenses, one-day wine and malt liquor license for the Falmouth Theater Guild on September 12th, September 25th, 26th, 27th, December 4th, 5th, and 6th, December 11th, 10th, and 13th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, and December 18th, 19th, and 20th, all in 2015.
So that's like 13, I think.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Okay. Next, under administrative orders. I think that each of these is worthy taking a little time to discuss each one as opposed to doing them in a blanket unless people feel differently.
No, that's fine with me.
Okay. The first is to deposit the funds in the amount of $32,655 to the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund. These are funds that have been recapture funds that Jennifer has been able to find for us, talking to the accountant, and it seemed most appropriate that these go into the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund. Any questions or comments on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Were these the funds that were originally from the, I think it's the East Falmouth Association?
No, these were community development
Those were
block
community
grant funds.
development? Okay.
These were surplus funds that remain at the conclusion of that one-time program that the town approved and pursued. And this is an appropriate use for the remaining funds, subject to the board's concurrence.
Okay.
These are from 2010.
And the account that they're going into, which is the Affordable Housing Fund, is a fund that the Board of Selectmen created for this very purpose, so that when there were funds like that, that we had a repository for them, so that we would be able to, as projects move forward, have those funds available for use in the future.
Great.
So I'll second the motion, unless you already did. Or did you make a motion?
No, I don't think there was a motion.
Well, I'll move approval then.
All right, then I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Next, to accept $500 for a donation to the Veterans Assistance Donation Account from the T-Ticket Civic Association.
Move approval?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. And next is to accept a donation to the Beach Donation Account from the Old Stone Dock Association in the amount of $723.94. And on our agenda, it says for bathhouse flowers, but I think it's actually for a number of different things.
Well, I will move approval of this. The Old Stone Dock Association raises money periodically, and they have very worthy causes to which they donate their funds, and in this case, it's to the veterans.
No,
The
this is-
bathhouse
I'm
fund.
sorry,
bathhouse flowers.
to
Yeah.
the beach
Beach,
house,
yeah.
which is part of their neighborhood anyway to start with, so I would move approval of that.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Item 4 is to approve an application for grant to the Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program Mini Grant Program in the amount of $45,000 to assist in the purchase of a conservation restriction for Kelly property off Sipwisset. And this will create a green corridor connecting the BB Woods all the way down to the Flume Pond off of Buzzards Bay. And this is for the conservation restriction.
We have a representative here, so I'd like to,
Jennifer McKay, would you like to, or ask the
or Leonard.
proposal, or Ann Robbins?
Good evening, Jennifer McKay with the Conservation Department. It's basically, we're requesting $45,000 from the Buzzards Bay Watershed Municipal Mini Grant Program, and that is going to be used to reimburse the CPC for the request of $90,000 that we made earlier this summer for purchase of the CR for the Kelly Woodland acquisition that is being spearheaded by the 300 Committee.
Any questions?
Well, I'd just like to note for the record that we had a presentation on the Kelly parcel
Yep.
from
Correct.
the 300 Committee some time back, so.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Thank
you
you.
very much, Jen.
Thank you.
And the next is to approve an application for a grant with the Atlantic Coastal Fish Habitat Partnership. And this is for the Lower Bog Dam removal and the Lower Bog Habitat restoration on the Coonamessett River. Betsy, do you want to give us a little information on this one?
Betsy Gladfelter, Conservation Commission. This is, you've heard me request to apply for grants for the lower bog removal and lower bog restoration. This is probably I'm looking at those of you there, you've probably heard me 4 or 5 times. This is the same project. I would love to be able to apply for a grant that would do it all in one fell swoop, but we're not quite at that point yet. We're almost there. So it's a continuation of the work that we've done. Just to give you a little update, we're in the process of permitting the project. We have plans. We have permitting that should be done early in 2016, and there wouldn't be any. And then the grant that we just got is to develop bid documents for the work itself, for the construction, and also for construction oversight once construction begins. So the last chunk is the money to hire a specialized firm, reconstruction engineering firm. And this will partially cover that.
Questions?
I just would like to make a statement to you, Betsy, that the day that we walked to that area, I was most impressed by, you kept saying, we need to fix that dam, and we need to change that dam, and you were quite intent about that. And as we walked further and further, I had no idea that Falmouth owned such a beautiful piece of property. And I think you care for it, just like a member of your family, I guess. But it's beautiful there. And I think that the people in Falmouth should probably be aware of what we own and what you are managing, and all in the Conservation Committee. And I guess my biggest point that I'd like to say is, as a selectman, I'm hearing too much about cement and glass and pavement. And I love hearing about it's green and it's clean water, and we need to preserve it and conserve it and take care of it. So I'm saying thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and I hope to be before you again fairly soon. There's another project I've been working on with some of you have met, a high school intern this summer, and also with Jack and Alex, who are the land stewards for the I shouldn't say land stewards, they're land managers for the 300 Committee and for the Conservation Department, respectively. And we're working with Bob Shea. We're developing an interactive website for the Coonamessett corridor. And hopefully, in a month or two, Bob's on vacation this week, but he gave me my assignment to bring back more information and more pictures, but hopefully we'll have that up soon so that people can see what there is to do. The 300 Committee has spent a lot of effort purchasing land or helping the town purchase land along that corridor. And there are lots of beautiful places to visit. And eventually, we'd like to have a trail that goes all the way down that corridor. So we're working on it bit by bit.
Thank
Right?
you.
So thank you.
It is great.
Betsy, in your timeline, you say that you expect the project to be complete by 2018, but then you'll be monitoring it on an annual basis?
It'll still be monitoring, and this is one part of a much bigger project to improve fish passage along the whole river. There's one other key part that will help alleviate the temperature problem, which is what is keeping trout from that stretch of the river, and that will probably be the next part that we attack. But the goal is to make the whole river passable and attractive to these fishes.
And this is just one part of a long-term project.
Much longer-term project.
What sort of funds are you expecting to get from this grant, and what percentage will that be of the entire project?
Well, you mean, well, that was hard even with this application to say the entire project, because between grant funding and in-kind contributions, we've probably already put $300,000 into the project. This would be $50,000, and there's some in-kind services that the town will be doing for construction, and so we need about $120,000 more. If you think of any good sources, let me know. Thank you.
Sure. use of money. All right, any other questions?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. Great.
Thanks.
Next item is to designate the temporary per diem electrical inspector position as a special municipal employee for the purposes of the conflict of interest law. And we do have a handout. Were there any questions on? Entertain a motion to approve that designation?
Yeah, I would move approval of designating the temporary electrical inspector, temporary per diem, as a special municipal employee. For purposes of the conflict of interest law.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. We have two special events. One is the Cape Cod Run from Addiction. We did hear about this at our last meeting. This is for Saturday, September 26, 2015. We have been able to expedite the processing of this and get this through the different department heads to have a review of it. I'm pleased that they were able to do that. I do want to once again encourage people to try to get their applications in 60 days in advance so that we can have the process work well, but I also appreciate that we were able to expedite it for this reason. Do we have any more questions from the board on this one? They were mentioned in public comment, so we have not had a official presentation. Do you feel the need to?
Is there
Mr. Santos?
anyone here? No, he's not
Well,
here.
when he spoke to us before, he mentioned that he thought there might be only 6 to 10 people who were running. Is that, do you recall that?
Exactly, and now it's 30.
Up to 30?
Mhm.
Right,
He
but I
did say
think,
6 to 10.
I think
Yeah.
that the confusion was it's a relay, and now they're going to have additional teams, and it certainly gave the impression there would only be one team, but in fact, there are going to be, they expect maybe 5 or 6. But it's going on all over the Cape, and Falmouth would be one piece of it.
Well, I think anything that we can do to raise awareness of the opioid issues on the Cape, I think we should do. So I would move approval of the event.
I do think that people are going to be aware of this because actually I think there will be some traffic disruption as these people are running through town, but that may end up being a very good thing. I just hope that the townspeople are aware this is going to be going on and to be conscious that they're going to be running on roads like Sandwich Road and other roads that don't have good sidewalks when the roads are not going to be closed. So,
Well, I think it's also that everyone knows there's 6 other events, and they are some type of running that, so the town is going to have a lot of people on its roads that weekend.
And I just have one question in that regard, maybe the town manager could answer. In terms of the indemnification and hold harmless agreement, is there a certificate of insurance on file? Because this is just an individual who has signed this. I don't see if he signed, it doesn't seem that he signed it on any particular organization. And there's a, looks like there's a,
I'm not aware of anything else being in place, but we can certainly pursue that if that's the desire of the board. Yeah, he's just, as you indicated, he signed this individually,
right,
but not as part of an organization.
organizations usually have blanket policies for liability insurance, so maybe.
Be happy to explore that.
Thank you.
Usually that is something that Diane handles, I think, and requires that that be part of their application. So
It's just not noted.
It's just not noted.
Right.
In fact, it's in our policy that
Right.
insurance is required.
it does say that
It
the
does say that.
insurance will be supplied
Yeah.
along with the tax ID for the nonprofit organization.
Will be. Okay, great. Move approval.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. And next special event is the Buzzards Bay Coalition Water and Information Stop at the Shining Sea Bike Path Lot on Old Dock Road on Saturday, August 29th, 2015. And you notice that they have actually moved their date back from the 22nd so that they can actually be heard at this hearing. And they will not be having a tent, it will just be some chairs up and a table with some water. Any questions on this application?
could just comment that Buzzards Bay Coalition has done a tremendous amount in working toward cleaner water, and I just think this is a great thing to support. So I would move approval.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. All right. Our next item is for a public hearing for 7:30, and this has to do with some liquor license violations under Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64.
Apologize.
And before we get started with the actual hearing, we did have a request from the Hong Kong restaurant asking for a continuance so that they could have someone here who could translate for the owner who was the owner of this store, the restaurant. Are we okay with continuing it? It would have to be to time and date specific. They were suggesting September 21st, but we don't have a meeting scheduled for that date.
Would you want to go to the first meeting in October? I think the suggestion was that they could not make the 14th,
Right.
which would be your next regular meeting otherwise.
I would move approval.
So the continuance until
To-
7:30 on, was that October?
I believe it's Monday, October 5th. We'll
Yep.
confirm that. Yes, Monday, October 5th.
Okay. We have a motion to continue the hearing for the Hong Kong restaurant until October 5th at 7:30.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, so we'll hold off on that one until... So we have therefore 6 other public hearings, and we'll be taking them in the following order. I will be running each hearing separately and ask for a affirmation of the people testifying will be telling the truth. And we'll have to, at the end of each hearing, take comment both from the applicant or from the owner, and if any public comment, we will have to close the hearing, we'll have to take findings, and then we'll have to make a decision on each hearing individually.
Okay.
Just so if you're out there, you want to know the order, we'll first be hearing from the KK Cotters Corp. doing business as Anchor Ale House, then RJ's Variety and Liquors, the Falmouth Beach House, 77 Water Street, DBA The Captain Kidd Restaurant, T-Ticket Market, and MZ Enterprises doing business as the Falmouth Food Mart and Liquor. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about will be the KK Cotters Corporation doing business at the Anchor Ale House. And I have to read this now for every single one. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires that the Board of Selectmen investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with witnesses under oath. In order to comply with this statute, all persons intending to testify at this hearing shall now stand. And this is just for the Anchor Ale House. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Okay, will the Secretary please note in the record that all persons intending to testify at this hearing stood and took an oath prior to testimony? Great. So the first we have is from the Anchor Ale House. And to just explain what's going on with this is that all these places have received a letter from the police chief. And this is the letter that they wrote to all of us. During the month of June 2015, the Falmouth Police Department conducted minimum age purchase law compliance checks at establishments licensed to sell alcohol in the town of Falmouth following the Mass General Law and ABCC regulations. A total of 37 establishments were checked. Of the 37 establishments, 7 establishments failed. When a violation occurred, the establishment was notified immediately. A temporary notice of violation was issued, and they were advised they received a formal notice of violation in the near future. And the following establishments that failed were Three-Way Liquors, Hong Kong, T-Ticket Market, Captain Kidd, the Beach House, RJ's Variety Store, and Anchor Ale House. Okay, and for the Anchor Ale House. Sir?
Do you have to read the allegation? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to summarize the
Charge?
incident
Sure.
which occurred? Yes, I had transmitted a letter to Mr. Kenneth Caprillion, manager at the Anchor Ale House, and it noted that on June 17th, 2015, a Falmouth police detective and a Falmouth liquor agent witnessed the sale of an alcoholic beverage to a youth buyer in your establishment, and that is the subject of this hearing. And we have, of course, representatives from the police department with us as well.
So, do you have anything you'd like to testify
No, I
to?
mean,
about this?
the allegations that have been made are accurate. When my bar is open, I'm there all the time, and I saw this woman enter the restaurant. She approached the bar, and when she approached the bar, I turned because I was cooking in the kitchen, but I can still see out. And within like 2 minutes, someone said to me, "Oh, the detective's in here." And I noticed the woman, and when I first visually saw her, she looks of age. She looks 25, 26. You know, tall, blonde woman that looks of age, and never thought anything about carding her. And the same went for the bartender, and the same went for other patrons that were sitting at the bar at that time. Obviously, they're not here to testify, but this woman just looked of age, and I was very shocked to find out when I saw the detective come in that she wasn't. You know, it's my job holding a liquor license. You know, this is just one aspect of having a liquor license. You have being able to count drinks, being able to monitor people coming into your establishment that have drank elsewhere, that are drunk, you know, looking out for the safety of all the patrons. We all know that, you know, alcohol is, if you look at it, 55% of the people that are incarcerated today committed crimes while under the influence of alcohol. That's a fact on the internet. So it's a huge responsibility to have a liquor license, and I realize that. It's just unfortunate that this occurred. We've addressed it internally. I can't stress to the bartenders to keep looking, and you know, if you don't feel comfortable asking for an identification, I will. But you know, it's unfortunate it happened, but you know, I continue to stress internally that we need to card people that don't look of age. But unfortunately, this person looked of age. And I don't know what my other colleagues in town who were also caught in violation would say, or if it was the same person. The person who we served never re-entered the establishment, you know, for the record, never identified herself. So I have no idea who she is, what her age is, who she's employed by, or anything of that nature. But we were wrong, and I admit that, and we're going to do better to prevent that in the future.
Thank you. Any questions? Rebecca?
How long have you been in business?
I've been in that location since April of 2007.
7. And all of your workers are trained. They're all trained. What's it called?
Tip
certified.
They're not all tip certified. I'm tip certified, but they're not all tip certified. But being how important this is, we always talk about you need to card people, especially when someone orders a drink at the bar and you don't know where the second one is going. You need to like always be cognizant of the fact of, you know, who's getting these drinks. And you know, tip certification is, even though I stress that they go, obviously when we go for a renewal of our liquor license, the town asks for one tip certification. They don't ask for multiple tip certifications from all employees in that establishment. So I do recommend that they get it, and I guess down the road I'll even offer to pay for it. But you know, we go over, you know, I go over, I have the booklets, you know, we go through it, and you know, basically being able to count drinks. I mean, I should be able to walk up to my bartender and ask them how many drinks have they served that person, and they should have that answer.
Has this happened before at the Anchor Ale?
I believe there was 4 years ago. It might have been 4. My memory is not, every day is about the same, but about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a police officer come in with a young gal, and I noticed them. And before I could get around to the kitchen, and I noticed the bartender was just about to serve the girl, and she didn't look of age, but she did, and we got caught in a violation there. So that's the only other time that I can remember that we were caught serving an underage person.
Do you ask each person that you serve a drink to show identification? Each person?
Not each person, no.
So this time, so you make the decision yourself? That's what you started your conversation out. You decided that the person looked of age.
Yeah, you walk up to the bar, and I will...
And there's not a problem in asking someone who's 40 years old, I'd like to see your ID. Everyone giggles about
Yeah,
it.
they all do giggle.
Wouldn't you rather have had that situation than the situation you're in tonight?
Correct.
So if you've had one incident of this, you had to feel kind of bad about it, slipped right through your fingers, or you thought, yes, she does look young.
Right,
And now it's happened again.
correct.
Could you be specific about what you plan to do from here on out? Are you going to do more tips training with your employees? Are you going to be more attentive in terms of the employees being able to card people who come
Well,
into the bar?
I guess it's all aspects of the liquor license, Selectman, you know, because it's not just serving an underage person, it's also making sure that they know when to stop, how to stop someone, you know, what to do when you think they've had too much to drink. So, you know, we do talk about all of that, but, you know, being the end of the season now, you know, I got one bartender who's leaving and I'm looking for another one, so it probably will be, obviously, I will make it a requirement to have the person tip certified. But even though they're tip certified, you know, the huge liability, legal liability is on me being the owner of the business and the property. I have a huge amount at stake there. If something happens, you know, with someone leaving my premises, especially a person under 21 who's drank there.
Well, what I'm looking for is a specific plan that you plan to implement as a result of this hearing.
I think what I'm gonna plan to do, and I've already started it since we were caught in the violation, is just, you know, every time people come in at nighttime, the bartenders come in because they're pretty much just working at night, just to show them and just to talk about it, get them tip certified, but also continue to you know, you got to say it to someone 10 or 15 times before they realize the severity. Like I told the detective that day, it was a real eye opener to the bartender who served the underage person. It really was. I mean, you know, even though we had talked about it, until you violate something, you learn from that.
I'm not even concerned that you're talking about 24, 25 is okay. I would think if they look under 30 or 40,
Right.
card them. And you keep saying, well, she kind of looked underage, she didn't look underage. You say, if she looks under 30, you card them. You don't risk it. You don't say, well, it was 1 or 2 years off. Say,
Right.
no, go with 9 or 10. There's no 30-year-old who's going to be offended that you asked.
Right. I agree.
And I'm a little concerned also, you said, well, some of my bartenders aren't comfortable asking. You've got to get them,
Yeah.
you've got to
I
fire that
understand
person.
that. Right.
If they're not comfortable asking,
Right.
that person should not be working for you because you're right.
Right.
You are responsible for it.
Right.
And, I mean, that should not be an acceptable answer to you. Any other questions?
One thing that stands out to me is you're doing two things at once. You're cooking and you're also trying to keep an eye on the bar.
No, I mean, I like to have an eye everywhere. I like to know who's coming in. I just, that's the way I am. But it's, I can't be everywhere, is I think what you're saying. So, I mean, obviously, the front-end staff has to be very well-trained.
Yes, which is why it's really required that you really train your staff so that you're confident
Right.
that they are going to follow procedure.
Right.
Rebecca?
What's the capacity, seating capacity,
65,
and the bar capacity?
13.
And there's no other area that people are sitting and could have a drink? 65 or
Yeah,
13?
yeah, right,
That would be,
right.
and it's usually filled, people
No,
aren't
it's
standing?
not. I mean, on Friday nights it is, and Saturday nights it is, but it's not so much that, you know, I take identifications at the door. It's not, you know, because we do karaoke, and, I mean, it's not that busy where we have to do that. Wish it was.
Do we have any questions for the police officers or the chief?
I think it's
Consider
pretty
admitted.
clear.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this hearing, on this issue? I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're motion and second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Do we have some findings on this issue? Found, I guess we would say that we did find that a underage individual was served alcohol at the Anchor Ale House on June 17th, 2015. Any other findings we want to add to this case? That not all of the employees have been tip certified. If there's a finding we can say is true.
Yes.
That the owner does take responsibility for the action and keeps an eye out for underage people coming in. Anything else that we need to find? Do we have a decision that we'd like to render on this?
I don't know exactly from the police department how it is scheduled as they go into different places, but I would recommend that that happens.
Well, that's something, that's
That's what they do. Okay, all right.
our option. We can modify, suspend,
Yeah.
revoke the license, or take some other action dealing with this license.
Well, the fact that it's twice, and I think it was from '04, so I mean, this makes it twice,
But that's a long time ago.
4.
Yeah.
So it's 11 years ago.
11 years ago.
One item is I would like to require that this institution, this place does require all of their employees to be tip certified for a continuation of license for this year. That's one item. 2, I would like to direct the manager to card anyone who looks under 30, not underage. Do we want to consider any suspension of the license for any period of time? Not that it's completely relevant, but we also do have 6 other hearings, and I think we are going to be setting precedent.
That's right.
Well, I would think we should consider a suspension. But I don't think it should be severe. I mean, it's, we've had other, I think, more severe violations in town. And I think, I'm not saying that this obviously cannot be condoned, and it should not happen. So, so I would think that we should consider a suspension.
Of a 1 or 2 day suspension for a day for us to determine.
No more than 1 or 2. So you're looking for me to make a motion. I would think a 1-day suspension in this situation would be appropriate.
I'll second.
And should we determine the date of that then? I would
Yes.
think we should, it's
Yes.
Saturday, and I think I would go ahead and suggest that we start with the next Saturday that's coming up and make it August 29th. That their liquor license is suspended for that Saturday.
Did you make a motion?
Yes. She
Made
did.
the motion, I seconded,
Oh, okay.
and he's suggesting that the
The
date be
date be-
incorporated into the motion.
Okay.
So the 3-part motion is that they require that they're tip certified. We're directing the manager to make sure that they're carding anybody who looks like they're under 30 years old, and we're suspending their license for Saturday, August 29th.
I'll make that a motion.
And I will include that in my second.
Okay, the motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ms. Capillion? All right, our next public hearing, this is for the RJ's Variety and Liquors, 174 Sandwich Road. This hearing has been conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires the Board of Selectmen to investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with witnesses under oath. In order to comply with the statute, all persons testifying to testify at this hearing shall now stand.
Can we have quiet in the audience?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Will the Secretary please note in the record that all persons intending to testify at this hearing stood and took an oath prior to testimony? All right.
Good evening. My name is Robert Crocker, owner and manager of RJ's Variety and Liquor on Sandwich Road. I've been in business for 15 years, and unfortunately, yes, this is my second offense in 2 years. All my employees are tip certified. The first time, the older woman apologized to me profusely. Thank you very much. This time, the gentleman that served the young lady, after reviewing the security tape, didn't even give her eye contact, just took her money and gave her a change. I advised him that because I'm shorthanded, because I have one employee that went out with a stroke, that his employment will be determined by this meeting. I am the smallest liquor store in town. I strive to be the best liquor store in town. I'm a neighborhood store. From September to April, we know 100% of our customers. We know who to card and who not to card. If there's any doubt, they are carded. As I said, that one evening in June, whether this employee had personal problems or what it was, there's no excuse for it. And I'm responsible inevitably for what happens, so I'm at your mercy. Although I would like to make one suggestion. If you make the offender guilty of something, whether it's a fine or I can't say suspension, but because that's my job to fire him if necessary. As owner, I'm responsible for any closure, which would affect other employees that were not guilty of an underage sale. A fine, I understand. A fine to the clerks throughout the town would send a strong message, even though they are tip certified, that, and I believe it is within the board's power to fine employees as well as employers.
That's a question I had not considered. Maybe Mr. Duffy can actually verify that. I did not think we were within the realm to be able to find an individual. I thought we could find the business, but I thought actually the only thing we really can do is to modify or change the license, is I think what is as far as we can actually go with that.
I was under the impression that the offending clerks could be fined as well under state law.
Well,
I may be wrong.
the town council suggests otherwise, so at this point we're going to stick, I think, with what we're recommending. Any other questions from the board for Mr. Crocker? Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say?
I card anybody that I don't know myself. My son does, and all my other employees should, and they know better, and they are trained that way. And we even have little signs on each register that says, check ID.
So what specifically do you tell your employees? Card everybody you don't know, card everybody you don't know who looks under it?
If there's any question, you card them.
You use a number out there, or just if
No,
there's a question?
if I carded a grandmother the other night.
She probably loved it.
She looked young, what can I say? And anybody that's questioning, especially in the summer in this town, you've got so many college kids coming in that you have to ID everybody. I used to have a wall of shame until I was told I couldn't confiscate fake IDs. But we try not to let it happen. It's not what we're there for. We're there to obey the law and sell to adults only.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Hearing's closed.
Thank you.
I think the findings we'd have on this one is that on June 17th, 2015, an underage individual did buy alcohol at RJ's Variety and Liquors. The manager has acknowledged this has happened. His employees are tip certified. He has directed them to card individuals who they have any question about being underage. And the employee at the time did not do so. Those would be the findings that I would say as part of our hearing.
Well, I think that if we started that it was a one-day suspension and if they could not serve alcohol for one day, I think that continues. Now, the store can be open. I mean, I'm not saying to close the,
I mean, they also, that's all they sell is liquor.
oh,
No, you sell, no, you sell soft
It's a
drinks
grocery
and
store.
other things. Oh, that's right.
And
You have the grocery
pizzas
store.
and-
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah,
for-
oh no, they've got a regular
Right.
variety store, and then on one
Right.
side, you have some alcohol that you sell there. So I'm just saying, in that one part.
Yeah, we are open on Memorial Day for the sale of bread, milk,
Yes.
watery cigarettes,
Right.
but no alcohol.
So they could be open to sell anything
Absolutely.
but
Yes,
alcohol
that's what
on
I'm
that day.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that we should designate one day that the store can be open, but there is no sale of alcohol.
And specifically, would you like to declare that day?
Monday.
This upcoming Monday?
It could be Monday or the following Monday.
Well,
Well,
to be consistent, that we have asked the other
Well,
places that
I'll
weekends.
agree with that too. Okay. All right.
Are you
You know each
suggesting the
indeed.
29th, which was the same day of the last suspension?
I am.
Okay. All right.
So that's your motion?
to suspend the license for
For
one
one
day.
day
it's
on the
August-
29th.
On the 29th.
And I
But the
wouldn't mind
store-
encouraging that we include that all of his employees be tip certified. I know they are, but
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason not to include that as part of the requirement.
Okay.
And to continue to encourage his employees to card anyone who they have any question about being underage.
Okay.
Okay, second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? The ayes have it. All right. Next, we have a hearing for the Falmouth Beach House. Soon I'll know this by heart. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires the Board of Selectmen to investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with the witnesses under oath. In order to comply with the statute, all persons intending to testify at this hearing shall now stand. Do we have anyone from here from the Beach House? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please note in the record that all persons intending to testify at this hearing stood and took an oath prior to testimony. All right, and so this is on June 16th, 2015. A Falmouth police detective and a Falmouth liquor agent witnessed the sale of an alcoholic beverage to a youth buyer in your establishment. I only saw this gentleman standing.
Their counsel.
James Morris, attorney for Mr. Bonzani in the Beach House.
If you're going to testify and speak, you must have, I'm afraid, I'll have to read it again.
Attorneys don't need to swear.
They don't?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess we just trust you to tell the truth anyway.
Genevieve Henrique for Mr. Bonzani of the Beach House and
James Morris, attorney for Mr. Bonzani in the Beach House. I believe at this point we will stipulate that a violation occurred. We would just ask if we could ask the chief or the investigating officer two brief questions. First, has the town of Falmouth Police Department, through as the agents of the local licensing authority, adopted the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission's underage stain guidelines?
Yes, we have. We go right down the list, ABCC guidelines.
Could you state your name, officer?
Sergeant Michael Simino, Alcohol Compliance Officer, Falmouth Police.
Thank you.
The second question is, what is the town's look-back period for disciplinary issues when deciding what to do with a license? Chief or town council knows, or if it's stated in the policy. I was unable to find it.
The look-back policy?
Do you have called a statute of limitations in the criminal law, but is there a policy that states how far back previous violations can be examined when deciding a outcome?
I do not. Mr. Duffy? Mr. Dunn, I'm not sure. Chief Dunn?
I think what he's referring to is how far back you go to determine a second violation. 5 years, 10 years. I don't think there is a policy here.
Usually we've done that in the decision that we've made as a probationary type period. I know that what we did earlier this year was that we put an establishment on probation, and if there were a second violation, we would be looking into it. We don't necessarily have that as policy as to what that time would be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I stated, in looking over the police report and evidence, we will stipulate that on the date in question that a minor was in fact served. I'd like to turn over to Mr. Henrique to discuss mitigation and some potentially exculpatory circumstances.
I'd like to hear the specifics of the facts.
I believe it's outlined in the police report that
Well, Mr. Chairman Jones has been putting the facts into the record, so.
I'd like to hear the specifics of the facts.
So far, for the previous two hearings, Mr. Jones has been
They were admitted.
providing. The specifics of the facts are that on the date in June, Falmouth Police did enter the establishment. A female patron went up to the bartender who was on duty. I'll speak a little bit more as to what has happened with that bartender. She ordered a bottle of Bud Light. That Bud Light was served.
How crowded was the establishment at the time?
Mr. Bonzani actually was not there the evening of, and I'm also going to be speaking to that, but if you give me a moment, I can inquire.
It was an average Tuesday, and June wasn't half full house.
His capacity is 289. It was indicating it was a half full house on that would be an average Tuesday in June.
Thank you.
Can I speak a little bit to what has been happened as far as corrective circumstances? Even previous to the incident happening, Mr. Bonzani has always taken all training of the staff seriously, not just tips training. So I do have all the certificates of the staff with me outside of those that are already on file in Town Hall. He also provides every new employee during the training process with a written alcohol serving policy. Certainly the employee in question was given this written policy. To answer some of the questions that you've asked of previous proprietors, the first bullet on the written policy is anyone who looks under 35 needs to show an ID to be served. That's something that you take home with him. I also would like to offer this to the board when the time comes so you can look. I think it makes it very clear how serious he does take this and bullet points everything he goes over with the staff in writing so they can go home and hang it on their wall. As I stated, Mr. Bonzani has always taken tips training seriously. However, immediately after this incident, he brought all the staff together and said anybody who hadn't been recertified in the past 6 months is to be recertified by the end of the week. I have 10 tip certificates showing that there was, within maybe not 7 days, but I believe it was 9 days, anybody who hadn't been in the last 6 recertified. Also pursuant to the written policy is a first-time violation by an employee is subject to a suspension of 1 week. A second-time violation is subject to termination. This particular bartender was suspended for 1 week. He is back in the good graces of Mr. Bonzani, certainly having learned his lesson, but that suspension did take place. The manager on duty that evening was terminated. Not because it was a second suspension, but because the management style has changed there, and I think for the better, and I think in a way that hopefully this board can feel assured going further that this incident of this unfortunate nature will not happen again. As I stated, he's made some significant management changes, partially due to this incident, but I am going to touch just briefly on an illness that was taking place in the family that I think is important to know going further why some of these mitigating circumstances or corrective circumstances are in place. For the past 2 years, Mr. Bonzani's wife was suffering a serious life-threatening illness. This spring, she began to go into remission. I'm actually happy to say today they got the phone call that she is in full remission. They don't need to see her for 9 months. But as you can imagine, during these past 2 years, much of Mr. Bonzani's attention has gone to the care for his wife and their 2 young children. He realized this spring, as things were thankfully looking much better, that also his focus had been deviated from the business during that time period, and that now, thanks to her health being restored, his time and energy could be redirected back to the business and make it truly a family business again. And I'm happy to say that's exactly what has occurred. The external management that they had in place those 2 years have all moved on because they do not need to rely on them anymore. Mr. Bonzani is either present every night that they are open or on a night like tonight that he's with us. His wife Jennifer is there. He's always strived for this to be a family business and glad to be back to achieving that goal. Again, as somebody pointed out, Mr. Bonzani employs approximately 30 people, local people during this time of year. Certainly that number goes down, but they are Falmouth residents who will be affected by if his restaurant has to close for even 1 day, because they mostly survive on tips and gratuities, and they will not be able to work that day either. Tonight, we're asking the board to issue a warning. I believe that although there was talk that precedent has been set, that in this case, some of those answers, some of those questions that you asked previous proprietors you didn't receive the answers. I think here we have been able to establish that a plan has been in place, and that plan is now even tighter due to this incident. But this isn't something that was capricious prior to that incident, and that now he's just putting together. He's had that written policy. He takes tips seriously. This was a very unfortunate incident, which he has asked me to express his sincere apology to the board, to the chief, and also to the town. We would ask that a warning be issued, and also to make it part of that warning, Mr. Bonzani would be more than open to making sure that all his employees are tip certified every year, not just every 3 years as required by law. That's certainly something he would do to make sure that their training is always up and running. And again, I would like to turn over this written statement to the board. The written policy, I would like to make that and the certificates of tips part of the record, but I also would like the board to look at it, and certainly any changes or improvements, you'd be certainly happy to incorporate those also. If I could just have one moment to confer with counsel and my client.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Pat?
I have a question. You mentioned that the employee who served the liquor to the minor was suspended for a week. You also mentioned that the manager was terminated. Was the manager terminated solely because of the liquor violation, or were there other reasons the manager was terminated?
I believe it was not solely because of the liquor violation. I am going to confer with counsel again. I think it was a joint decision that a loss. It was part of the change of management style in the sense that he's back and he wants to be hands-on. I think the fact that this did happen, what happened at a time in his life where he could do that, but also was a reminder that he needed to do it, and he needed to do it ASAP. And it came down to he recognizing that, unfortunately, the only people that maybe they can trust are the people who the liability is on, and that would be he and Jennifer.
But that was a consideration in the termination.
Yes.
Any other questions for the attorneys or Mr. Bonzani?
No. May I pass up this written policy?
Yep.
So just to make it clear, because I may have misspoke on these certifications, these are all these certifications that are not already on file with the town, and that were within, so people redoing in the past 6 months, so some are actually December because they had recently redone it, or the people who went further back all did it that week or two.
Any other questions? Anyone want to speak on this issue? Entertain a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
I'm not sure, well, okay. Second.
Motion and second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Hearing is closed. Findings, I think that we do have that a underage buyer did purchase alcohol in this establishment on June 16th, 2015. The employees are tip certified. The management does have a policy about carding anybody who's under 35 years old. The management does admit that this happened, and the person who sold the alcohol was suspended for a week. Those what I list as our 5 findings. I am now inclined to have a different recommendation, but would probably want to go back and amend the previous motions that we had before, based on that, just to be more consistent. What I'd be more interested in is, I still do believe in a suspension, but I think that most of these establishments do have more than one employee and the owner that are suffering from it, and I'm interested in the possibility of a 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. suspension. It's going to be hard for them to do. They're going to have to notify people about it, but that's on them, and maybe the word gets out saying, oh boy, you can't buy alcohol in there from 12 to 4 because there was underage alcohol purchased, and that might go even further in publicizing the fact that something went wrong, as opposed to, no, today there's none. And that way they could still be open, these businesses. They could still have the people who are working the restaurants work those days and just from 12 to 4, they're just not going to be
You mean noon to 4?
noon to 4. So for that 4-hour period is what I'm thinking now, and it may mean that we'd have to reopen the hearings for the previous 2, just because I do think we need to, even though they're all separate hearings, I do think we want to be consistent. Rebecca?
I don't think anyone is going to speak to us, any of the names that are on here, that everyone is fully aware of what happens when you serve a minor. Everyone is aware of that. It's the fact, mine is more on the number of times. If our police department was going in, say, 3 times in the summertime, I do understand that with a crowd of people, and you know every one of the rules, and you've been tip certified, and you know you've been told, and you give us the information, and you have the sheet of paper, and it happens. So I think the point of what you're saying is to go from a 12 to 4 and go back and revisit our other decisions is a very good solution.
Well, I think we ought to consider maybe reconsidering the date rather necessarily the time.
I think there's something.
I mean, next Saturday is, well, it's not Labor Day weekend, but it's the weekend before Labor Day. It's still part of the summer season. I mean, I think everyone has acknowledged the fact that it happened. I mean, everyone is very upfront about the fact that this happened, which and has been very forthright about it, and also about their policies and their training. And I think that's been very helpful to know that they actually do conform with these regulations. I mean, not that we think you wouldn't, but to be able to stand up here publicly and say this is what we do in our establishment. The other thing I think that is certainly more in line with, I think, some of the positive actions that an owner can take is the fact that that employee was suspended. You know, I know that there's some have said they may take action, they may not, but I mean the fact that they took action very quickly at the beach house, I think says a great deal about the owner and the management that they have there, that they took this very, very seriously right away and did something about it. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to the idea of going back and reconsidering, but I'd reconsider more the date than I would reconsider the time of day.
And I'd be willing to do both.
Do both?
And maybe suggest Saturday,
well,
September.
Why don't we decide this one first and then go from there?
Okay. See, that's why I said a while ago a Monday. Because you know what's happening on Saturday and Sundays. And there isn't anyone who has a liquor license that isn't scared to death of this happening. And it happened.
Well, I still like the idea of it being a Saturday from 12 to 4 to
A Saturday 12 to 4.
get the word out there and say, yep, make people stand up and notice. I would think a Monday from 12 to 4, a Monday might not even be aware.
But, you know, that's, well, I don't know. I think that's sort of hard on the customer.
Okay.
I mean, how many customers are going to know that if they go in at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they're not going to be able to buy, you know, a 6-pack or a case of beer or a bottle of wine or whatever.
And maybe it's different for restaurants than for
package
stores.
stores, yeah.
I don't think we have to be completely consistent between the two.
We do.
Okay.
And I still would go with the Monday. And the 12 to 4 is fine. But on the other hand, it is never to look at the selectmen making decisions on a very serious issue, that we would go from a full day suspension to a 4-hour. I never want that to be thought about, that we changed our minds. We can change our minds again.
I'd be far more supportive of a full day rather than a 4-hour, but not on a not now and not on a weekend.
So September 14th, Monday, September 14th, would that be a day you prefer?
Monday, September 14th is fine.
Assuming the restaurant's open, if not, it would be the following day. Does that make sense? Some close Mondays.
Well,
Well, we'd have to determine whether or not
Well,
I
we'll
don't
just
think it
simply
is.
have to
they were
ask.
going to be opened.
We'll just have to ask.
is the beach house open on Mondays?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's your big one.
That's all we need to deal with right
Yeah,
now.
That's right, okay. So the Monday, 12 to 4, on September 14th.
Well, Pat was suggesting,
No, I was
well,
saying the full day.
Okay, all right.
and that's
Is that
it.
your motion?
No, I haven't made a motion.
Okay.
Are we at the point where we're ready to make a motion?
I think so.
You think so? Well, I would make the motion then that the date be September 14th,
And it's a full day suspension.
and it's a full day suspension for one day.
Okay. Second?
Yes.
We have motion and second for a full day suspension, September 14th, for the Falmouth Beach House. Do we want to also include the things that we know that are happening with the tip certification and the maintenance of their alcohol serving policy?
They're already ahead on that.
Okay.
They are. Yeah.
We have motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So 3-1. At this point, I would like to now go back and reconsider whether we want to change. Do we want to consider changing the date for the previous two establishments?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to the first one then, please, for the Anchor Ale House.
I move that we open the hearing. on
Well, we don't
the
want to,
Anchor-
we don't have to.
Oh, we're not going to open the
We don't have to
hearing?
open the hearing, it's just reconsidering the
Reconsidering the
decision.
decision?
Yep.
Well, then I would move that we reconsider the decision for KK Cotters doing business as Anchor Ale House.
At the same time, do you want to say we reconsider the decision on
I
RJ's
think we have
Variety?
to reconsider first.
Okay.
Second.
We're reconsidering the decision on Anchor Ale House. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And what would you like to reconsider the decision to be? That the suspension, a one-day suspension is also September 14th?
I make that motion.
Okay, she made the motion. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. And now for the RJ's Varieties, motion to reconsider this decision.
Move to reconsider.
All those in favor say aye.
Second.
Aye.
Motion is
September 14th,
a full day of suspension.
full day suspension.
Second, Ms. Moran.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on, 77 Water Street, doing business as the Captain Kidd Restaurant. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires that the Board of Selectmen investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with the witnesses under oath in order to comply with the statute. All persons intending to testify at this hearing shall now stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. And let me just make sure you're aware of what has gone on. On June 10th, 2015, a Falmouth police detective and Falmouth liquor agent witnessed the sale of an alcoholic beverage to a youth buyer in your establishment. Would you like to discuss this with us?
Yes, my name is Sean Woods. I'm the general manager of the Captain Kidd. I'm accompanied by the owners, Jimmy Crowley and Blackie Murray, Bill Murray. We understand that happened. We are not denying that, and we are upset just as you guys are. It's an unfortunate thing that happened. It's the first time this happened in the entire time the Captain Kidd's been the Captain Kidd under that ownership, and it's something that we will never have happen again. What we have done to make sure that never happened again is the bartender on duty, he was suspended. He was suspended for 4 shifts. He wasn't allowed back until he was tip certified. Since then, we had every single employee in our establishment has been tip certified, as well as every server, a bartender, server, they're all tip certified. We have a liquor policy we have in hand. I have one to hand out to every member of the board. It says the bullet points are anyone who looks under 30 years of age is to be ID'd. All members of a party of the legal age need to be legal age before serving them. No more than 2 drinks per individual. All the stuff that's supposed to happen. Excuse me. And Sid, we are on top of it, and we want to make sure this never happens again. So during every pre-meal we have, we are on top of all the servers and bartenders to make sure that they are IDing everyone who looks under the age of 30 If they've been told if they feel uncomfortable, or if someone causes a stink, the manager, myself, who's always there, at least one of our owners are there, if not both of them. I have an assistant general manager who's actually at the building right now. If they feel uncomfortable, they're told to come get us. We immediately go over a table and deal with the situation. Like I said, it's something that's very unfortunate that happened, and we apologize.
Questions?
Could you just tell me the circumstances of the violation?
Yes, we had it's actually a new bartender. He was on. We had lost a bartender. He left us. He quit. So it was a new kid who was training. I was actually in the process of training him. I was called upstairs. The owners were having a meeting. We were going over our new menu for the summer. I came downstairs. I saw a young lady at the bar who was handing money to the bartender. I was going to tell him to ID her because I saw her and I thought she looked very young. I wanted to make sure she was being ID'd. And by the time I got from downstairs to be on the floor, she had already been served.
Thank you.
Any questions, Rebecca?
Was it a crowded evening?
It was not, no.
It wasn't a crowded
It was not,
evening?
no.
And was it on the bar side?
Yes, it was. It was on the tavern side, right when you walk in the first door.
Okay. And we don't have a time. It was just that it was on June 10th. So it was in the evening of some type, and it wasn't very crowded.
It was right on the turnover, I believe. I want to say between 4:30 and 5:30, around that time.
How long has the Captain Kidd been open?
Captain Kidd has been open under that ownership since 1972. Is that correct, Jim? 1972.
And this is the first violation that the Captain Kidd has had since 1972. And at some point, it was open just summertime, and then eventually, these last few years, it's been open year-round? Or the bar is always open?
The bar was always open. The last year, it was closed for the winter. The last 2 years, it was closed during the winter. And before that, it's pretty much been a year-round establishment.
It's basically a year-round?
Yes,
I
correct.
mean, that's your decision as you're thinking about it?
Yes.
And there are times that it's very crowded on the bar side,
Yep.
depending on what is going on, and there's never been a violation. And now on a quiet evening, the 10th of June, and everything it's not on your mind that a minor is being served.
It's always on my mind.
Okay.
It's always on my mind.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was training a new bartender. I had just been called away from the floor for about 45
Okay.
seconds.
That was a good answer, because if it isn't on your mind, I would have had to say a few other things. Okay.
Before I took over as general manager, I bartended for 6 years myself, so I know the importance of IDing everyone and make sure everyone's of age. It's a
Okay.
big thing I go over at every pre-meal with not just the bartenders, but the servers as well, because I know not everyone goes to the bar to order a drink.
Pat?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I would like to ask Officer Summerno to confirm the time of
Sure.
the violation so that we have it on the record. I was going to call you Sergeant. Is that a promotion?
That is.
Oh, good, well.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Sergeant Semino, Falmouth Police, we sent the young lady into the bar at 6:37 p.m. And it was very quiet.
6:37.
There might have been a small handful of people at the other end of the bar, but extremely quiet that night.
Thank you very much.
And I assume the timing was purely coincidental. It was not, they were waiting to see when this new bartender was there and when you were upstairs.
No,
There's no suggestion of that.
Okay.
Any other comments? Any other questions for the manager of the owners? Anyone
to
else like to
close.
speak? Okay, we have a motion to close.
Well, would you like the tip certifications and the policy we have?
Yes.
I'd love to see the policy. Just I think I have to compare all of them.
Thank you.
And the certifications as well, would you like to?
Thank you. You can put them together. Great. Thank you.
Actually, I do have one question. I don't think we actually had the vote on
We
closing
haven't.
it yet.
We haven't.
Can you describe the physical layout difference between the bar and the restaurant?
Of course, yeah. There's two entrances. When you first walk in, it's right past the Fusion Restaurant. You walk into a tavern side. It's a 17-seat bar. On the back wall, we have 35 seats. It's in a banquette style, right above, right behind the mural. I'm familiar with the place. Right behind the mural is a banquette. The seats about 35. And then right behind that, there's another four tables that are high tops, if you will, tables that have high chairs. Then on the other side, if you take the connecting room, our restaurant has a small raw bar as well, which seats 6 people. And the restaurant itself has a seating capacity of 120. And then we also have a dock and a patio and a dock as well. So the capacity is about 315. I think it's 315 is our total seating capacity.
And is the policy the same for those working the bar as it is in the restaurant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. And again, the findings are that on June 10th, 2015, an underage buyer did come in and purchase alcohol at the Cat and Kid at about 6:30 in the evening. The employees are tip certified. The restaurant does have a policy about checking everyone who looks under 30 years of age. The bartender, was a recent hire and was suspended for 3 or 4 shifts. I'm not sure exactly how many, but action was taken. Those would be our findings. Decision on this one. Oh, I guess I will ask another question, even though we're especially, is the restaurant open on Mondays?
Yes.
Or the establishment open on Mondays? Do we?
Is there, when we're talking about this location, is there a thought that if the violation is at one bar on the restaurant side is different than the bar on the other side? You take it for the whole establishment?
It's one license.
It's one license.
Right.
Okay, so it doesn't signify hours on one side is different than the other side or any of that type? It's just one blanket license, okay.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if there's
Yeah.
any way we could split it, but we can't because it's a single license.
It's one license.
Okay. All right, well, okay.
Well, we've established the precedent of
Of a suspension for
suspension
one day
for
on
one day.
September
on
14th.
September 14th.
That would be my motion.
There may be other bunch of places that are going to be very busy on this day.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second to have a one-day suspension on September 14th, 2015. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ms. Moffett, 3-1. All right, next we have the T-Ticket Market, 125 T-Ticket Highway. This hearing has been conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires the Board of Selectmen to investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with witnesses under oath. In order to comply with the statute, all persons intended to testify at this hearing shall now stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you please note in the record that the persons intended to testify at the hearing stood and took an oath. So on June 9th, 2015, a police detective and a Falmouth liquor agent witnessed the sale of an alcoholic beverage to a young buyer in your establishment. And you are?
My name is Brian Inson. With me is the manager of the establishment, Lou Farwell. And I'll speak for him this evening because his 3-year-old son's brought a little bit of throat problem for him. But if you have questions, he can whisper them. We've been here on T-Ticket Highway since June of 2006. This is the first time that I'm before you with a violation of the liquor laws. We'd like to stipulate that a cashier did sell to a minor, and that cashier was fired when she appeared for her shift the following day. Our training policy is, first, we do have a written policy for selling alcohol. It follows almost exactly what we call in the industry BAT training. That's beverage alcohol training. The restaurants have tip training. similar but slightly different. We have a training process for a new employee where the manager or assistant manager go through the complete rules of selling, determining whether a person has had previous alcoholic drinks, determining their age, and according to the BAT training, they should be asking for an ID of anyone that does not look 30. I can say that I can ask 45-year-olds for an ID occasionally because they all look young to me. We go to the next step after we do our training, that the first available BAT training available, we send the employee to, we pay their wages to go to the training, we pay for the training, and in some cases, if they have to travel off Cape, because there are a limited number of training sessions in the wintertime, we pay for their transportation. After they're trained with BAT training and our training, they're then ringing the cash register, and the manager and assistant manager review what they're doing, when they can see them. And we also have a 30-camera system, which we do watch the cameras, 9 of them on the front end of the store. And if we see somebody that doesn't look of age, and we see they didn't check an ID, they're brought back in for retraining. After that, we hire a third-party company. They're called BARS, B-A-R-E-S, B-A-R-S. We hire them. They go into our store twice a month, year-round. I'll call it a sting operation. I know that's what we don't want to call it, but that's what we do to our employees. The person is of age, because we can't break the law, but the person does not look 30 years old. They should be asked for an ID. If our cashier asks for an ID, they get rewarded with a local establishment's gift certificate, coffee shop to a restaurant, etc., retail stores. If they don't, they get what we call a red card. They're warned, they're retrained on BAT training. If ever they get a second red card, they're fired. That's our written company policy for the cashiers. So when we're doing the sting operation, the person is of age. If they make a mistake, they get a second chance. If it is done with a person that isn't of age, they're immediately fired. In this case, we had an employee that had gone through all those trainings that decided not to follow the law, and we admit to it. We've seen the videotapes, we've watched it, we know she did it. Over the years, this has not been a major problem for us, but about 15 years ago, in cigarette, we have other age-restricted products, cigarettes and lottery, we treat the same. We and other retailers went to the boards of health and asked, and actually begged, that they include our employees in the punishment. We were a little perplexed at what we could do to further train our employees, to further enforce it in the retail business. We went off Cape to some retailers off Cape, and we did discover one thing we have added to our store, and that's by reprogramming our cash registers. We can now, when you scan any alcoholic product, up on the screen comes a place where they have to enter a date. And we're now reminding them that if they don't look 30, you're going to have to take that date off their ID. Unfortunately, we don't know if this will protect us in the future from the person that knowingly breaks the law. I know the person that was fired from my store was working in retail the following week. There isn't much consequence for the employee that knowingly and openly breaks the law. We will continue to add video cameras. We can't wait for the day when facial recognition can match the license that you slide in, but that's some years away. We do go to national and local seminars. That's how we've added the training programs we have. And every time we see something, we try to add it to our establishment. As far as the punishments, a single-day punishment in our store would be a grave punishment to all my employees, not just the one that knowingly broke the law, that will have absolutely no punishment at all. And I'm hoping there'll be a day in the future when either the licensing board or the police can help us in the retail business by making our employees responsible also. I think most of the restaurants and retailers in the community want to be responsible. We try. This is one that I stay up at night because I don't know how to protect myself from. We tried. I've given you things we tried in the new one we've added. And we'll intend to add anything else that we could find or anyone recommends to us.
Questions from the board? Yep.
I think you do run a fine establishment there, I mean, a fine business. And it's occurring to me that while you were talking, could there be, I mean, I know that if you have several people in line and they, you know, want to get rushed and ready, could you have another person taking a look at your customers? Because if there's the one person who was ringing in the register and knows all the rules and has followed everything that you have told him to do, and I think you really have gone beyond anything that I have heard any establishment has done. I think you have really worked on this, and then there's the one incident, it didn't work. But what about the other people who work in the place and maybe just have an idea that person shouldn't be served? If there were two people that were watching, rather than just the one at the cash register. Because when you come in, you have to walk up and down your aisles to find whatever product they're looking for. And I just thought maybe if two people were responsible instead of just one.
On the evening in question, there were 3 people in the store.
Okay.
The other 2 employees were cited with what we call a yellow card, sort of like the soccer term. They were cited because they were there when the other cashier broke the law. Now, from our videotapes, they probably weren't looking directly at him at the time, but our explanation is you should have been. They work as teams.
Okay.
Everyone in the team is held responsible.
Okay.
In this particular case, I couldn't say that they absolutely would have witnessed the sale 100%.
Okay.
And there will be those times. It was not a real busy time, like you said, when the people are standing in lines.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just thought that if it was a system that 2 people were taking a look at each customer and then saying to the other one, did you ask for an ID? I mean, it's just maybe if the 2 work together, you've got what, 3 registers?
4.
And if 2 of them were always kind of keeping track of the other one and saying, did you just ask for an ID? If someone else had just said that to the person that sold it.
I have 2 questions. Did the cashier, had she had a red card before?
No.
When you looked at the video, would you have checked that person?
Yes, everyone would have, I believe.
So there's no...
I have no problem with the appearance of the person that did the purchase. They should have been checked. They were not 30.
Any other questions? Any other statements?
Move to close. Second.
Motion and second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Hearing is closed. And I assume the T-Ticket Market is open on Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
And they sell other things besides just alcohol, right? It's another variety market store.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm sorry, what did you say?
It's a variety store.
It's
Yes,
not-
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with.
So the findings are that on June 9th, 2015, alcohol was sold to a underage buyer, and that the employees are tip certified. They have an extensive policy in place to prevent this from happening, and they admit that it did happen. and the person was terminated immediately upon returning to work the next day.
I think it's bar certified, or it's the
Bar certified.
retail version.
Right. Does the board want to continue with our one-day suspension on September 14th with this one?
Oh, that hearing's closed. Yeah.
My name is Jamie Crowley, I'm the owner of the Captain Kid.
You have to go to the microphone.
Whoa.
I'm curious if
This
the
has
town
nothing to do
policy
with this
is
hearing.
going, the
Don't take it.
penalties are going to be the same penalty for a first offense as it is for a second offense, or what the precedent is on that.
Okay, I understand the question. Thank you. So,
Were you asking a question?
No.
No. Oh, excuse me. Okay.
so a motion to have a one-day suspension for September 14th for the T-ticket market?
So moved.
Second. But I would like to
Discussion?
discuss for a minute, yeah. See, I do think, I'm really impressed with the effort and all the programs that Brian has put together in the store. I mean, I know nothing is ever foolproof, but I think you're really to be commended for all that you have done to try to make sure that your employees don't get into this situation where they serve to a minor. And I just think that others can learn from that. And maybe some people could even maybe dodge the bullet the next time in a certain sense. But I think you've gone a very long way to not only to protect the employees from getting into a difficult situation, but also to protect the public. So I think...
I do worry in our attempt to be
and-
following precedent that sometimes we're considering these as all being the exact same case.
Right.
And I think this is well taken where the efforts being done in this individual one was everything they possibly could do. Some of the other testimony we've heard say, well, as long as they didn't look underage and, even objected to the person coming in and say, well, I don't think I would have carded her, is a very different approach that's being taken by different places. And
So, yeah, it's a little more difficult to weigh in a sense, when the violations are all the same.
Right.
Nevertheless, the circumstances to some degree are the same, but everybody operates their business a little bit differently. I don't know, but I mean, I know that there are other establishments, such as the Captain Kidd, where they've never had a violation before, too. So, I mean, we're kind of, it does look in a way like we're just applying this across the board because of the violation, not so much because of the circumstances or the efforts the owners have made, or whether or not they have had violations in the past, or whether maybe if they were 6 months ago, that might carry a lot more weight than if they were 10 years ago or something like that. But it's a tough call.
I think to try to really fine-tune our decision based on
All
the
those
variances
different-
is really way too hard.
It is way too hard.
I think it's going to be very severe and grave, the punishment we're coming across, but I don't see a way of
You
managing
can't dice
more-
it up.
Right, I
Yeah,
really don't.
It doesn't
And
work
then
that
the
way.
violation is the same, and unless we really had other circumstances to consider. And each one of these different places has said, well, this was what's going on at mine, this was going on at mine. It was a new bartender, there was an illness in the family, we've done these 5 different things.
Well, that's exactly why I'm going for the 4 hours and not the whole day. Because each one of the places have a different situation, and there hasn't been one word that I've heard from anyone giving testimony that isn't very concerned about the issue of what happened to them. And no one was lighthearted about it. They take it serious, they work on it, and I think if there has to be some type of judgment, I would make the judgment between being the first time in however many years and being the second time. And I would do it on 4 hours on a Monday. But because each one of these are a different weight.
Well, I would like to get some information. I've never run a restaurant or run a variety store, and I wouldn't mind randomly choosing an owner of either one. Just say, what would it mean? How would it be to have a 4-hour suspension? Just, what, I'd be curious to, because I don't know what kind of penalty that is. I can understand what the full day is like, but how would you do it, and how would it, I mean, just to be able to consider the 4 hours, I would really want to know, as you're saying, what would it...
Well, it's not part of the facts of the hearing, and everything is different. I mean, the difficulty here is the owner is the holder of the license. And so unless the legislature gets, more specific, I think that we, certainly the fines or the suspensions you can't make them to the degree that everyone would be satisfied.
But if it's okay with the board, I wouldn't mind asking for a volunteer, one from a restaurant, one from a liquor store, just to talk a little bit to us about what it means to have a 4-hour suspension.
That's not before us. The hearing is closed, and I don't think it would be, it's more about policy that maybe the board could study at some point. It's not about the facts of the hearing before us.
No, but it gives us a feeling as to what the penalty really means, and that's something I don't, not being a restaurant, liquor store owner, I'm trying to...
It's going to depend on the location, the size, how much is bar, how much is restaurant, what their inventory is, how long they've been in business, how great their management is, how new they are, what time they were in training. It's just not, it's not going to be applicable.
Okay. So further discussion, we do have a motion and a second.
We do.
For a 1-day suspension for September 14th for T-Ticket Market. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
I don't know that, we do have one more, but I think do you want to have any discussion about the question that was just brought to us concerning the first violation in however many years? Do you want to address that, or are you coming up to the point that it's outside of the testimony?
I think that I certainly have been considering that in information I have as I've been making my decision as to whether we've had testimony about anything happening. If it happened 15 years ago, I don't think it's relevant. I don't even feel it's relevant to say if it happened 4 years ago under different management. I think if it happened within the past 6 months, it'd be a very, very different story.
Okay.
All right, MZ Enterprises, doing business as a Falmouth Food Mart and Liquor. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, which requires that the Board of Selectmen investigate complaints regarding liquor licenses with the witnesses under oath. In order to comply with the statute, all persons intended to testify at this hearing shall now stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please note the record. All persons intending to testify at this hearing stood and took an oath. And so this is saying on June 9th, 2015, a Falmouth police detective and Falmouth liquor agent witnessed the sale of an alcoholic beverage to a youth bar in the Falmouth Food Mart.
My name is Megma Sherpa. I'm the owner of the business and I'm the manager. And this is my first offense. The business is fairly new to us too, and I have my partner too, and he's not with me tonight.
Pardon me, sir. Could you speak closer to the mic?
Yeah, it's fairly new, and it's my first violation. And I usually work a lot myself, and I'm still training because it's new business. And I was training my employees, and I usually be there a lot by myself. And that night I left around 6 o'clock, and it happened after 6 o'clock. And I hope not to happen again. So that's it.
Did we just issue this license to you?
He's no longer employed for me after that.
Okay. Did we just issue this license to you for the Food Mart?
Yes.
And you were the new owner?
Yes.
And the new manager?
Yes. It's been
And
about 9 months now.
about 9 months?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
What kind of training did you give the employee who was left when you departed from the establishment?
I trained him pretty like for 4 months, and then he was getting good, and he fell through that night. He said it was pretty busy, and he just didn't caught the person.
Is there a written policy that you had him read?
Not yet, but we're gonna make one.
And what did you tell him were the rules? When you were training him, what did you tell him about serving alcohol?
We told him whatever person looks under age 30, we told him caught everybody, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Did you follow the TIPS training program? Or
Yes, I
you
did a while back, like a few years ago. I've been in business. I worked for somebody else then. So I had it trained before, and I never had a violation. I've been in the business for almost 10 years, doing the same thing, working for somebody else.
Do you yourself hold a current tip certificate?
Yes, I do.
And does your employee hold a current
I
tip certificate?
I don't have employees right now. I work a lot myself. I have only part-time, so. And once I have a full-time employee, I will have.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other testimony?
Move to close the hearing?
Second.
Motion second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Hearing is closed. So I think the findings are that on June 9th, liquor was sold to an underage buyer in the Falmouth Food Mart and Liquor. The person who sold it is no longer working at the place. That the owner is tip certified and has assured us that any full-time employees will be tip certified. Admits it did happen. I think that's as far as we go over our findings in this one.
I think that to be in business for 9 months is a very short time to already have violation. And whether it's one person working there or 2 people working there, I just, you just need to be following the rules. I mean, 9 months with the license, and you've already got a violation. That, I think that makes me look at this a little differently.
I'm not sure if I'd be expecting to have a violation in the beginning of an establishment, or if it's more likely when you're starting out or when you've been doing it for years and years and years. I think years of experience. I think that our previous applicant has been doing this for so many years that he's learned how to do it correctly. And I would hope that the current, that Mr. Sherpa might be able to take some lessons from this tonight's hearing as to other things he could be doing. I would think certainly requiring that he have a written policy that he could give to us or give to his employee, post in his establishment saying, this is what our policy is, so that the person working there, whether it's he or somebody else, can read it and can point to it when someone says, why are you carding me? He says, I'm carding you because you follow the guidelines I have right there. You put that by every cash register, and that makes it much easier for, I think, the employees to remember. I think that would be something that certainly...
Well, I guess the other part of it is that you think of the number of years that the other people had the violation and everyone had the same type of a discussion about what it meant. But if it says to the community that you've got a place in town that within 9 months someone underage can be sold liquor, it really does affect me in thinking about the people who have gone through a lot not to let this happen, and it still happens. But 9 months, a 9-month license, I would think that you would be new at it, and you would want to make sure. And if you only have one person working there, then there's only one person to blame.
So would you feel more comfortable with a full day than 4 hours for this one?
I certainly am.
Okay. So again, Would the board like to suggest the one-day suspension, September 14th, for the Falmouth Food Mart and Liquor?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second for the one-day suspension on September 14th. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. It's unanimous. And that takes care of our public hearings. We'll now move on to our business. And the first is a EDIC presentation of the lease of the landfill site for solar purposes. Mr. Galasso here.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having us. This evening, I'm Michael Galasso. I'm the president, chairman of the board of the EDIC. And we are here tonight to discuss the recent history of the landfill reuse project and to request that we take the next steps of redeveloping the landfill by asking you to place 2 articles on this fall's town meeting warrant. One, to rezone approximately 48 acres of the landfill to light industrial C, and the second, for authorization for the board to enter into and execute a land lease with EDIC to allow the development of a solar array that will provide the town with up to 5 megawatts of renewable energy. I think we have a PowerPoint presentation that we'd like to take you through, so. Thank you. So here's a little bit of history of the process that we've been going through for the last 3 years. In July of 2012, the EDIC entered into a memorandum of understanding with the board to study the potential redevelopment opportunities of the closed and capped landfill. In late 2012, we issued a request for proposal to hire a consulting engineer with experience in reusing closed landfills, and we selected Weston and Sampson to prepare a redevelopment reuse feasibility plan, which first examines the economics of various reuses of the landfill and to help us select the most economical reuses. Pete, if you want to go to the next slide. You can go on one more. So this list that you see are all the different uses that we looked at in examining both the potential development cost, the revenue, and other benefits, and the advantages and disadvantages. So with this list, we held a number of public meetings and got input from a number of town committees and from the public in selecting what we think is the highest and best use. So all these were examined, and there's some more in the next slide, Pete, please. Disc golf, open space, dog park, landfill mining. So we examined every use that we thought could be applicable to the landfill. We conducted a number of public meetings in 2013 and 2012. We were in front of the town meeting this spring, gave them a background on the project. We solicited input from various town committees before coming to the conclusion that the highest and best use and the use that will provide the town with the most beneficial economic return is to reuse the landfill for solar development, which, according to the consultant's study, a copy of which has been provided to you, could generate up to 5 megawatts of renewable energy that could save the town between $200,000 to $500,000 a year. If you go on to the next slide, there's one more. An example of some of the other landfills on the Cape that have been redeveloped with solar arrays. The next one, Pete. So this is an analysis that has been done that determines what the potential savings would be to the town depending upon the different power purchase agreement rates. So as you can see, it varies between $457,000 a year to $451,000 a year. And that 5.3 megawatts, which is what has been estimated could be developed on the landfill, would generate 6,610,000 kilowatt hours. We have also verified with NSTAR and Eversource that with some system upgrades, there is current capacity in the grid to accept the power anticipated to be generated by the landfill project. The EDIC has prepared 2 draft articles for the board to consider to be placed on this fall's warrant, and we request that your vote this evening commence with that process. Our attorney, consultants, and other members of the EDIC board are here this evening to answer any questions that you have. This shows the map of the area. It's not the full landfill. We are not asking for rezoning on the waste management facility area. It's just on the portion of the landfill that is capped, and that's what this map shows this evening. So I'm available to answer any questions you have. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Yeah. I have a few questions. I was reading through the Weston and Sampson report, and on page 2.1, the last sentence on the page says, existing site conditions, security, existing electrical infrastructure, and environmental concerns will need to be evaluated if development of solar is pursued. So now, if the board, say, voted tonight to encourage you to pursue solar, would you then take up that evaluation? Or at what point would you think it would be appropriate to do that evaluation?
Well, let me ask if I could, Mike Richards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can ask him.
Mike Richards from Weston and Sampson.
Yeah. And could you use the microphone?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of this stuff gets vetted with the solar developer in terms of security. There's some details that have to be worked out in terms of access to the facility and protection of their space versus the town space. So what you have on one side is you have the waste management facility that the town operates, and what you're going to have on the other side is the solar. So what you need to do is, what's going to have to be vetted through this process is separation of space. And usually the developers are not willing to fence off their property, but if it's a requirement of the town, then they'll have to do it. So it's just details that are going to have to be worked out. It's not a full-blown study in terms of security, but it's something that has to be vetted through the process.
I guess my next question would be for Mr. Galasso. Based on where you are right now, are you leaning more toward the having a private developer pursue this or having the town pursue it? Have you come to that conclusion yet?
Yeah, we're leaning towards having a private developer do it. We are, because the second part of this is to enter into discussions, negotiations with you on a land lease, we're in the process of drafting a request for proposal to issue to potential developers so that when we do meet with you to discuss the terms of the land lease, we actually have some real firm numbers and they're just not estimates anymore. So that's one of the next steps that we're taking.
Okay, another question I have is, the study focused solely on solar photovoltaics, but other forms of renewable energy may be feasible. So are you looking at other forms of renewable energy, or are you really pretty much satisfied that you want to go with solar?
We're pretty much 100% committed to doing solar.
Okay. Then on page 4.1, it says, assuming the average Massachusetts household uses approximately 7,000 kilowatts of electricity annually, the system would produce enough electricity to supply 830 to 940 households. Do you happen to know how many households we have? I meant to ask the assessor's office today, but I didn't get around to it. Just anybody know?
21,000.
21,000.
Give or take.
So that'd be like, what, 10%? 8%? I'm not good at percentages.
In the...
5%.
What?
4 or 5.
4 or 5%? Okay.
And the power that this generates is intended to come to the town to use on facilities that are currently owned and operated by the town.
Right.
That's how it ends up reducing our bill.
Well, you've already answered the question. You know, why would we want to own it, the town, when it's, I think it's been pretty well demonstrated that private owners do a good job.
Yeah, they do, and we want them to maintain it too, so we don't have any ongoing maintenance costs associated with it.
Let me see, I had a question on net metering. The legislation requires utilities to allow net metering for up to 3%. I'm going to pass on that right now, because on your conclusions, you say, the evaluation of the landfill suggests that the site could support a solar PV system of approximately 4.7 to 5.3 megawatts, resulting in an estimated annual production of 5,860 to 6,610 megawatts. However, the grid connection may limit the size of the project that could be developed. Is that a definite? Do you actually know that that the grid I know there are issues with Eversource in getting connections to the grid, and sometimes they can take a while. And so are you really concerned about whether or not you can make that interconnection for what you really want to accomplish?
We've already made the application to NSTAR/Eversource. We pay them the fee. They've done the analysis and have determined that for a cost, we can connect, and it's a reasonable cost, we can connect into the system, and that if we connect 3 megawatts, it's a little bit lower of an upgrade. If we connect 5 megawatts, they have to do a little bit more work. But we've already made that application, paid them to do the analysis, and we have a pending agreement with them to reserve sort of that space in the grid.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are my questions so far.
Has there been any discussion about difficulty of selling this electricity from the solar? Isn't that one of the issues that there were so many places that are selling electricity that they want you to think that they're going to buy it from you? That would just be one of my...
Well, I think you may be referring to that there is sort of a cap on how much renewable energy the utilities have to buy. And from what I understand, that cap is close to being reached, but that the governor here in Massachusetts has legislation to extend the amount of the renewable energy that the utilities have to buy.
I was not aware the governor did that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's passed yet, but I know there's some legislation to expand the amount of power, because there's been a lot of solar developed over the last few years.
That's right.
And the utilities are sort of saying we have enough, but the governor is sort of pushing back, saying we want to develop more green renewable energy here. And so there's legislation to increase the amount of renewables that the utilities have to acquire.
And that doesn't make you a little bit nervous to think that you don't have a buyer for it?
Well, we have a buyer. I mean, the town will buy it. I mean, we need it. We need it to offset our bills and everything. So the town is actually the buyer of the power that will be generated.
I'm not sure how that works.
We have the solar panels out there, and I don't know, Mike wants to explain or anything, but he might do a better job explaining it to me. Basically, we have the panels out there that are going to generate 5 megawatts of power.
Right.
We still have a need that the town does in the buildings that we have to take that power.
But maybe what you're saying is that, Mr. Chairman, is that we may not want to get involved with it at all. It may be the town's preference to really have a private developer do all of this.
Well, yeah,
I mean, the benefits still come to the community.
That's correct.
But the risks would go with the private developer as opposed to the town.
Yeah, that's still the model. The private developer will build it for us. Yeah.
I'm trying to separate the private and the developer. I'm trying to separate that issue.
Gotcha.
And that you would go to the developer to have the operation of this and not the town.
Yeah, the developer.
But yet, then you want to sell it to the town.
Yeah, so the developer, we will issue a request for proposal to select a developer, experienced developer, who will build and operate the facility for a 20-year period. It's a typical term of the lease. And they will take the power that's generated from there, and it will go to reduce the town's electric bill.
Yes.
You
You see, I'm familiar with the project in Sandwich. There was an affordable housing. There was an affordable housing development in Sandwich, right on Snake Pond Road, almost abutting the fence at the base. And that was designated by the town for affordable housing, and they started the project, and I think there were maybe 2 or 3 homes that were built, and the whole thing just fell through, and they stopped. And then the people who own the land decided that to put a solar power facility there would make a whole lot of sense. And so they pursued that. And the town of Sandwich was going to be the beneficiary of that project in terms of the power. And so I kind of see this sort of in the same way, perhaps, where the town of Sandwich owned the land, but the developer came in and actually developed the solar project, but the town benefited from it.
Yeah, I might be able to add a little bit, just for the record. Laura Moynihan, I represent the EDIC. I was involved with the Falmouth Ice Arena solar project, so I'm by no means an expert in solar, but I basically, was up to my eyeballs in power purchase agreements and all the contracts that we went through with Con Edison. So in a nutshell, the town would enter into, or the EDIC would, as their agent, would enter into a PPA, power purchase agreement, where the electricity that's produced would be sold to the community at a reduced rate. And typically, as time goes on, that rate continues to go down. So that's where the electricity savings, the cost savings are to the community itself. The facility is producing the electricity, and instead of the town buying it from the utility company directly, they're producing it themselves, and they are buying it back, but they're buying it back at a reduced rate. The developer builds the facility typically at their cost and maintains it. And you may say, well, what's in it for them? Well, what's in it for them is really the federal tax credit system, because for every kilowatt hour of energy that the system produces, typically, and Mike knows more about this particular setup than me, but what I'm familiar with is for every kilowatt hour that's produced, the federal government gives the developer a payment, a tax credit, in order to promote renewable energy. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. And these agreements are quite involved, but that's the gist of how these setups work. And if you can find a site, particularly like this, that's a large site that can produce so much electricity that has very limited use otherwise, it really is an ideal solution for the cost savings for the town. It works. It works at the ice arena. It's a huge cost savings out there. And that facility was built by Con Edison at their cost, millions of dollars to build all that. And that's it's producing all the energy to run that facility. The rink is buying it back at a reduced rate.
Mike, can you, I noticed the board is here. Can you just introduce the members of the EDIC and give a quick synopsis of how this project has been put together?
Sure. So members here tonight: Jay Zavalos, Jim Fox, Chris, took Steve's spot, Steve Spitz spots, Dave Eldridge, Brooks Bartlett. Miss anything? Anyone? Oh yes, Sue. Thank you. The EDIC has been working on this project for a little bit over 3 years now, and we've expended a little bit over $80,000 on it in studies.
And what's important about moving this process to town meeting right now? What's the urgency?
Laura mentioned federal tax credits. Right now, that program is due to expire at the end of next year. So we will need to have the project up and running and in service by the end of 2016.
So that includes the advanced development time. So we're going to need a decision at town meeting, this upcoming town meeting.
Yes.
And then why, I understand that you want selectmen to offer this project in the warrant. Why is that important?
Well, I think we feel, members of the board feel that though we made a presentation at the spring town meeting, I think we have a lot of support for the project. Over the years, as we've had a number of meetings, most folks that have come to the meetings, including prior board members here and other officials in our town, have been very enthusiastic, supportive of the proposed project. We feel that it probably has a better chance of passing if it's an article from the selectmen.
Thank you.
A comment? I think that might be a little premature. I'm thinking that, I mean, we really haven't seen the whole project. We don't know who the developer's going to be yet, what the timelines are, when it's going to be started, what it specifically, what benefit will actually be specific to the town, and I'm assuming that it would be a private developer. But I don't know. My thinking is that to have town meeting make a zoning change without a specific plan might be a little difficult. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but if between now and November, perhaps if we had the whole plan put together and we knew exactly what it was going to cost, who the developer was going to be, when the project was going to begin, when it would be completed, and what the actual benefit would be to the town and how many homeowners would actually benefit, that would go a long way. And we don't actually vote articles until, what, September?
September.
Yeah, sometime in September. So we have a little time left
And
to be able to deal with this.
Right, we're not asking you tonight to vote on
It closes September 4th, which is next Friday.
Oh, that soon? Oh.
Yes. So
okay.
we're not asking you to vote and endorse the article. We're asking you to sort of be
Just
the
put it on the
petitioner to
warrant.
put it on the warrant, so we have a place. And you're right, there's a lot of things that need to happen. But you still, there are two things. One, you still have, you're asking, the second thing you're asking besides the rezoning is to authorize entry into negotiations with the EDIC and to answer all those questions you brought up, because we don't have the answers yet until we actually issue the RFP for the developer. So there's a time period when we'll be back in front of you and negotiating the lease that will spell out and answer all those questions. Who the developer is, what's the timeline, what are the true economics of the project. And as far as rezoning the property and the project doesn't go ahead, you still own the property, and you can always, you have complete control over what you can do with it. And if you needed to, you go back and rezone it back to public use if you needed to, if this whole thing fell apart.
Do you have a zoning map that shows us where the nearest LIC is to this so that spot zoning doesn't become a major complaint about the town trying to spot zone?
Sure.
I mean, I know we don't have a lot of LIC because it's a new zone that we just created 2 years ago, so we can't have too much of it, but.
Yeah, I think there was a zoning map that was part of.
I mean, I know there's another parcel in Thomas B. Landers that's LIC also.
No, Jim Fox is on.
I'm also on the planning board, and the planning board has been dealing for years with the need for more industrial LIC land, and we have been basically targeting this whole area in town. That's one of the reasons why when the one area we did make, the first part was further on down the road. Yep. The reason why that was not spot zoning, because the definition of spot zoning, it's got to be part of a plan. In our local comprehensive plan, for years we've been talking about doing this, and the town's vision has always been to make the light industrial see more in this area of town. So it's part of a long-range plan. The conservation, I mean, the comprehensive planning group has already done it, and the only place we have done is just down the street from this, and we're looking at a lot more in the future.
Perfect. My second question is, I'm a little leery about rushing forward on a project that creates energy because of the tax credits we get right now. we've done that before, and that didn't work as well as we liked it to. My understanding then, I'm worried that this project doesn't work if we don't get the tax credits. Is that true?
The tax credits benefit goes to the developer.
But we won't, but if the...
And if the tax credits aren't there, it will change the economics of the project.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it couldn't be built. The benefits to the town may not be as great. And there is thought of extending the renewable energy credits to at the federal level. But if for some reason they're not there, then it will change the economics.
And are these pro forma pages we have in our packet for ownership? There are 2 pages that, it's a 20-year out as to what the cash flow is going to be, cumulative cash flow. It's the PV system pro forma from the Falmouth EDIC.
What page are you on, Mr. Chairman?
Well, it's not a numbered page. It's towards the back of the packet that we received. And, but it doesn't look like, it looks like what would happen if we, the last 2, what would happen if we owned it?
The whole thing doesn't, the town, it really doesn't work if the town owns it all. The whole basis of this is having a third party that comes into place that is the owner of it, because only the third party can take advantage of the tax credits, the town can't. So the corporation that would be leasing this, they'd be totally responsible for the tax credits, they would make the judgment on it, and those tax credits are long-term, and that in that cash flow, that is the third-party ownership model. The whole plan is a third-party ownership model. The town doesn't owe anything, just has the land lease in place and a power purchase agreement with the town.
So this is the cash flow for the developer?
Yes, that's the only cash flow that's in there is for the developer doing it. That's not the town. The town is just the landholder. It's kind of like a store. The town builds the store and you put a tenant in, and the tenant is now, you sign a lease with the tenant, and the tenant's responsible for the 20 years. The town is just the landlord.
Well,
the developer...
I would find it would be very hard to convince
him. I can interrupt for 1 second. I believe in the document you have there, it shows a negative cash flow.
Oh, yeah.
And that's under a town ownership.
But we're not proposing that.
And not the third party.
That's why I want, because I had some real problems with these numbers, and you're telling me this is a town ownership model that we're not following.
We're not doing it, right. Okay. The only thing we're doing is third party. It doesn't work without it. That was, they studied everything, and we were only proposing a third party model.
Great.
Quick question.
Yep.
So what is the importance and the need to get the variance before trying to entice developers to the project?
Well, we are in the process of enticing developers to the project. That's why we are issuing the request for proposal now, so that, I mean, if this would work out perfectly, we would, we're issuing the request for proposal, we would select a developer based on those responses to request for proposal, would be a town meeting this fall, we would get the rezoning in place, we'd enter into negotiations with you on the lease, and shortly after the beginning of the year, we could actually have them out there starting to do work. It's going to require a lot of work, but that's the timeline we'd like to be on. And maybe Mike can answer this. Mike, based upon the size, how long does it typically take a developer to build something like this out?
I believe a facility of this size would probably take anywhere from probably 6 to 10 months, maybe 11.
Jim, can I ask a zoning question? Just to make sure I understand why we're going, that public use, we couldn't have a developer using the public use land anyway, so we'd have to rezone this.
It's not a permitted use in the public use zone. It's not one of the listed uses.
Because it's photovoltaic, but even public use doesn't allow a private developer to do anything, right?
I'm not sure. It's just the main reason is it's not a permitted use. That's the main reason, and it is a permitted use in the LIC. Right. So it's simple. It's that simple.
Okay.
Laura.
Maybe I can assist with that. The only zoning district that allows this use is the light industrial C. That's because that's one of the newest zoning districts that was added to the bylaw by town meeting. And there was some forethought into that by the planning board to say, let's put this in there because this is a use that's here. And so that's the only zoning district that that this project could be done in.
Zones
okay?
created 50 years ago didn't think about PV.
No. So the timing is critical because, as you can see, if, with the 6 to 10 month construction process, it's got to be up and running by the end of the year of 2016. If it waits till April town meeting, it's too late. By going forward with the rezoning at fall town meeting, by the time that comes about, a lot of this fine tuning will be done and can be done for town meeting members. But the rezoning is critical to it. It's also important to the process of enticing the developers because it's saying to them the town is committed to this project. We're here, we're committed to this use on this land. We have it in place for you. You don't have to go out and spend $50,000 of your own money on engineers and lawyers and consultants and then find out it isn't rezoned. It is rezoned, it's ripe, it's ready to be used. So that's really important to the RFP process as well, that the Board of Selectmen and the community supports this project and wants the project. So the other factor is the power purchase agreement, where a lot of these questions come up in terms of, the cost of the electricity and those things. That's an agreement that you would enter into along with the EDIC. Your council would be looking at that. Those are things that would come, with the developer and are, there's a lot to that agreement process. But anyway, the rezoning for November, the timing really is critical for this fall.
And neither of these two articles will cost us anything if we pass them and decide not to do the project.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
How much of the landfill are you requesting to be zoned? All of it or part of it?
No.
A section of it?
Yeah, just the 48 acres of it. The waste management facility is not being requested to be rezoned.
Well, why wouldn't, as a town, we might want to rezone all of it instead of just the portion of it? I mean, suppose you decided that after you did the studies that may not be the right section of the landfill and you had to move it
And we'll ask Mike
in
for all
one
of
direction or the other.
That's
You
not
wouldn't
the
be
right
able
area.
to.
Can you do waste management?
I don't know. Maybe Peter can answer that.
Yeah, and our memorandum of understanding was only for the area that's sort of outlined here on the map. It did not include, when we entered into a memorandum of understanding, the waste management facility, but maybe Pete can answer that too.
If we could
I
go
don't
back
know,
a
Mr.
screen
Jones.
which that shows all the dishes on it, keep going. Can we get to the,
Yeah, it's right
one-
here, too.
no, but right there.
Yeah.
Every one of those, this has been studied very carefully, and every one of those black areas is a panel, and it's calculated on the slope and the light and how they're gonna, it's already been measured and engineered, and every inch of the land. We could do more, but those are the most profitable ones. It's all been designed to know exactly what the kilowatts are to produce, and it's already been, we've spent thousands of dollars studying it, and we've got it all engineered, ready to go. So it's all, those areas have all been taken into consideration, and we've had it done for a couple years. We've studied other uses, and this is ready to go, and this is the 5.3 megawatts. We could possibly get more, but that's what fits on it. That's the most profitable. That's the piece we're going after.
Rebecca?
Why were you concerned about that? Why were you, when you were talking about why not zone the whole thing?
Oh, I know, it was just, why not? I don't know, it just
And
occurred to me.
Jim just
If we're only
addressed
going to do a portion
Yeah.
of it, why don't we do all of it? But I can see where you have done studies that tell you that section of the landfill is much more suitable for it. It's probably, whether it's the height or the
It's
depth or
slope
the
related.
direction
If you
or
look
whatever.
closely,
Yeah.
closely there, if you can see the numbers, these slope lines are really, really close together. It's very steep, it flattens out, it's all been taken into consideration. And so those areas without panels are either very, very steep, or they're for the recycling operation, and those are the two reasons why we didn't use it.
And public use is a little bit more lenient for what the town can use it for than LIC, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That there'd be there'd be a disadvantage to rezoning where the waste management facility is to LIC, because things would be
that's correct.
restricted as to what you could do there.
Yeah, and we never studied that area. We understood that operation may want to continue, so that was not part of our memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
One more?
Yep.
Who controls the developers? Who in the town or with the EDIC keeps the developers under control?
That would be one of the roles that the EDIC would play. Just like our current project, which is a renovation of the train station, we hire a clerk of the works.
Right.
That's responsible to us.
Okay.
And on our board, we have folks who are very experienced in real estate development and management and construction. So that's why we would have and continue on with that role. And we would probably work with the town engineering department and the other departments, Mr. Suso's office, but we'd be the ones who would be controlling the developers.
Okay. Thank you.
My other question is, have you given any consideration to maybe having a conversation with the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative?
Yes.
That does this, that does projects like this?
Where's John?
Yes, we have the...
He's a member of our subcommittee. He's been working with us on this for a number of months.
You are working with him? That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's a county organization, and it's good to know that you're working with him.
He's provided a lot of expertise that we don't have.
I don't doubt that for a minute.
And also coordinated and had combined agendas with the Energy Committee for Falmouth.
Yes, we have.
Correct.
And one of their members has been appointed to our subcommittee. So we've tried to cover all the bases in this. And we think it's a great project for the town.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you asking for from the board tonight?
We're asking the board to support the 2 draft articles for the rezoning and for authorization to enter in our lease negotiations. And when I say support, I guess really I should say sponsor the two articles. And then we'll come back at a later time when you're reviewing all the articles for town meeting and provide additional input and discussion.
Thank you.
Well, since we're going to take up articles on the warrant next week, I would be more comfortable including it with the articles for the warrant for next week rather than doing it tonight. Because we'd want Frank Duffy to review the language of these articles too. And I mean, I don't know whether you have or not, but I think before we vote on them, we should have them reviewed by town council.
I don't think we can, we're certainly not voting a recommendation tonight. It's way early in the process.
Right.
Right, yeah, because this comes up in our regular process.
I think it's can certainly be put as a placeholder onto the Board of Selectmen, and then we can review it, and we may, if we don't like it, we'll recommend indefinite postponement, or we can recommend that we go ahead with it, but. Yeah.
Otherwise, the EDIC would go out and get the signatures and
could we ask John Cheklik from the CBEC if he could make some comments about the project from their perspective? Is that appropriate, John? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I know you were in the utility business for 30 years, so you know something about it.
I'm John Cheklik. I'm the town representative on the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative, and on the cooperative board I serve as their president. We've developed 32 projects, 28 megawatts. We're looking at income or savings to participating municipalities of about $65 million over 20 years. We've done 7 landfills in our portfolio of projects. And in looking at this project, I think it's very well designed. The engineering, from what I know, is very well done. And at this point, I would, and in working with Mike and the EDIC, I think they're the appropriate body to do this project. All of our projects are third-party owned. We went out for requests for proposals and got bids, selected developers, and got quite attractive power purchase agreement prices, and you really have to go out to bid to get the developers to come back to you with what they're willing to charge to build and develop the project. And Mike is right. He really needs that information to do his economic pro forma. He's already talked with Eversource, and From my past experience, you got to get into the game real early with them because, in fact, they can be the cog in the wheel, so to speak, to get the project completed. But they've already begun that process. They know what the interconnection costs are going to be because that's probably going to be added on top of the developer's PPA price to come up with a final price. And what you're looking for, the savings, is the PPA price subtracted from the net metering credit value, which right now is about 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And that savings is what the town and the EDIC is going to benefit from. You know, the electrons that are produced by the solar panels, they just go off into the grid. Whether they end up in the town of Falmouth or not, who knows? You'd like to think so. But where you benefit is, again, is the credit difference with the net metering credit. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Okay, so are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we have a presentation from the Mass Department of Transportation on the replacement of the wooden bridge on Palmer Avenue.
Okay. Have you driven over that lately?
I did. It was noisy.
You take a dip, and then you come back up again.
And when you're under it, on the bike, it's a little scary.
It is scary.
Good evening, Peter McConaty, Deputy Director of Public Works. Tonight, I'd like to introduce our bridge engineer from MassDOT. He's going to come up and talk about the old Palmer Ave Bridge over the bike path, the wooden bridge. In recent months, it's been basically deteriorating, where I know that at least once a week, the MassDOT crews are out there replacing the boards and fixing part of the decking of the bridge. We've had flat tires out there for the nails sticking up. This is not new. About 2008, it was the Mass Highway wanted to replace the bridge. It was a full reconstruction. There was going to be a full tear down and completely build back up again. This is just a superstructure reconstruction portion of the bridge. But I think, as you'll notice with the timeline, they'd like to start in September, October. So I've been kind of watching when this happens. I've been kind of watching. They have some bike benefit rides for the bike path, and they also have, I think, the Turkey Trotter. They have some road races that are going to be going over the bridge. So we want to make sure that we be able to work through that. But Shane will come up and give you the presentation of the reconstruction.
Good evening. As Peter had mentioned, my name is Shane Souza. I'm with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. I'm the district bridge engineer right now, and just wanted to present a project that we've been working on with Peter for the past couple of months. Hopefully we can move forward and start construction as soon as possible. I'll just, give a little synopsis of what we plan on doing, and we do have experience with these types of bridges. We've already constructed 3 in other cities and towns. Rainham, Kingston, and Dartmouth, and this would be our fourth one, rather, in the town of Falmouth. This is just a proposed plan of the overview of the site. Basically, what we want to do is just go beyond 50 feet on either side of the bridge joints. In doing so, we're going to have to relocate the gas main. We've already been in talks with the gas company. All we really need to do now is just set up a force account to pay for the relocation of the gas main over to the west side of the bridge. And then down below is proposed elevation of what the bridge superstructure is going to look like. There is a little bit of substructural work. As you've noticed on some of the abutments, it's granite blocks. Some of the granite blocks on the top portion are going to have to be taken down, and we're going to cast in place concrete beam seat for the superstructure. Here is just showing the existing cross-section versus what we're proposing on using for the bridge. As you can see, we're using, it's still a timber bridge, but what we have to point out is that we're going to be applying a spray-applied waterproofing membrane, which will, stop any water and any leakage going down into the bridge superstructure, decaying any of the timber. And it's a stress laminated glulam bridge, which has, it's not really pressure treated, but it has it's ACQ. It's just preservative treatment to the timbers. And on top of that, we're going to have a hot mix asphalt wearing surface. So there's no more riding on the timber planks that we're, the citizens of Falmouth are riding on today. As I had mentioned before, there is a gas main that needs to be relocated. In doing so, we're going to have to temporarily support it, but we do want to maintain the bike path opening. So this is just showing a schematic of how we propose on supporting the gas main and taking off the superstructure. One thing to know is that some of these activities we may have to close down the bike path for a few hours or so. We can work around that. If it calls for, possibly doing some of the demolition work at night, we can do that. We're more than willing to work with the town of Falmouth. And this is just showing the roadway plan. Like I said before, our limits are pretty much, I think it's 50 feet on the north side. It looks like something like 75 feet on the south side. And in reconstructing the roadway where we do disturb it, we plan on using Mass DOT standard specifications for the gravel base, the sub base, and the pavement. As of right now, as Peter had mentioned, we plan on starting the work mid-September to October, pending the utility relocation. In doing so, we do plan on shutting down the road. And there is going to have to be a detour. We've already discussed with Peter as far as talking with the fire department, the police department for emergency routes. And in the winter, we're going to have to shut down just due to the weather. Hopefully, we don't have as bad of a winter as we did last year, but there is some float in the schedule, so there is some fluff in there that our primary goal is to be out, mid-May, the latest, and definitely not go past Memorial Day. So the next couple of slides are just showing, the construction sequence of similar bridges that we've constructed. Weeks from 1 to 6 is just setting up the detour plan, any traffic management that we need, any safety protocols that we have to set up, and then we demo the bridge superstructure. Moving forward, like I had said before, we're going to have to remove some of the granite blocks on the top portion that are underneath. They're smaller blocks. They're more like rubble. We want to put in a more robust concrete beam seat to sit our superstructure on. So weeks 10 to 13, we continue on forming and setting in some steel reinforcement for the concrete beam seat. Okay, and that's just weeks 10 to 13 continued. As you can see at the bottom portion, you can see some of the concrete beam seat, which is part of the foundation being erected. This is the type of superstructure that we propose on using. It's much more robust. Like I said, it has preservative treatments in it. So you're not going to have that type of decay that we have in the bridge right now. It's a post-tension, it's stress laminated, so what that does is once we set all the beams in place, we actually post-tension the bridge, and it induces a compression into the structure to further reduce any leakage or any cracking up on top due to differential deflections. And the other reason why we went with the timber bridge, we thought it was just, aesthetically pleasing, especially in that area. Looks a little bit better than some gray concrete. And even some of the guardrail work that we're going to be doing, we're going to upgrade the guardrails. The bridge railing is going to be upgraded to an S3TL4 railing, so it's a lot safer. Like I said, the highway guardrail transitions, you can go either way on it. You can go with a galvanized thri beam or a weathering steel. I think we've discussed weathering steel because it's brown. It blends in better with the surrounding area. So weeks 16 through 21, it's a short winter shutdown. As I had mentioned before, if we do have a bad winter like we did last year, there is enough fluff, enough flow in the schedule where we, we shouldn't be into May, into too far, mid-May, the latest, that we should, finish construction. But then weeks 22 to 32, it's a 10-week stretch, assuming, March, April, and mid-May. This is when we start doing our approach roadway work. We have to cast approach slabs, which just help the approach pavement from not settling when you get onto the bridge, so you don't get that bump. It gives you a nice smoother transition when you get onto the bridge and off the bridge. And these are a couple of photos. As you can see, most of these bridges that we've done, this type of structure, it's over railroads. This one just so happens to be over a bike path, which was a railroad at some point, I believe. And that's just, a couple of photos of what the superstructure will look like in elevation if you're on the bike path. And then continuing on, as I had said, this is a squeegee applied waterproofing membrane. We're proposing on using a spray applied. It's a little bit more robust. I think it actually goes down at 3/16 of an inch, so it's a good layer of waterproofing membrane, so you don't get any of those de-icing salts or any water into the wood for the decay. This is showing a couple more photos of the waterproofing membrane. And this is just showing some of the other bridges that we've done before. The weathering steel thriving that I was talking about, it's that approach guardrail on the top left-hand corner bridge. You can see it right on the right. It's weathering steel, and what that does, it forms a patina, which is it's a rust that protects the steel. We can go galvanized as well, but it's in our opinion, and I think we could talk to Peter as well, that we're probably best fit to go with that route in that area. And then the other thing that we're proposing is putting on a anti-missile fence for any any objects or anything that may be thrown down into the bike path. It just stops that as well. It's worth mentioning that we do have a contract in place for this type of work. It's not anything that, everything's pretty much all set. We're here asking you guys just to jump on board, and I think it will be an asset to the town. I think you guys deserve it. You guys have had that bridge for a while, and we're just trying to, help the community. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, question. It's pretty scary driving over there right now, I can tell you. I don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm really concerned in the sense of how much and for how long it might affect the bike path, because we've made a lot of commitments to organizations to use the bike path through the fall and obviously early spring.
Okay. Yeah, we can, by all means, we can accommodate if there is an event. I don't know if they're usually weekend events or if it's just for recreational use, but if it is a weekend event, we can, by all means, we can accommodate and keep it open. You may have these utility supports there if the beam seats are not cast in time, but that's all going to be protected by Jersey barrier on both sides.
So there won't be any way for anyone to actually use that part of the bike path while this is going on?
No.
You can use part of it, maybe?
No, you can go right through the construction
zone. Oh, you
zone.
can go right through the
site?
site?
Yeah, we're going to meet, in one of the slides.
There'll be 4 to 6 hour periods sometimes where you can't.
Yeah, and that's what I was mentioning.
Okay, I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, when we're picking up the existing structure, obviously we don't want anybody crossing underneath it, so we're going to have to shut down the bike path at that period of time. But by all means, we can work with you guys if there is an event going on, or if it's not the best time to do it during the day, we can actually do it at night.
That's good. Thank you.
So,
Sure. I just want to really commend Mass DOT for the consideration in the kind of historical aesthetic look. I think that's great. I think your choice of the railings too, kind of with the patina, really lends itself to that. So that's the first thing. And then just in terms of any shutdowns, as you just mentioned, the bike path is also used for commuters to Woods Hole, like people to get to work actually use the bike path. So it would be great if you could publish any anticipated shutdown, possibly with the Woods Hole Village Association, and also coordinate with the Bikeways Committee, just so that people can maybe add a little bit of time to their commute. And I just think for safety reasons, it would help if there was a pre-awareness to that. But it sounds like there's really been tremendous thought into accommodating all these issues already, which I think
Thank
is
you.
really appreciated.
Yeah, and I can touch base with Peter and, you know, whoever I have to outreach to, we can certainly do that.
One of those illuminated signs.
Yep.
Works pretty well.
Yeah, and before we do any of the construction, we are going to put, you know, variable message boards up saying, you know, these parts are going to be affected, you know, plan accordingly, essentially.
Great. Especially at the last entrance, like to the bike path, so you wouldn't want people having, have gone so far and then find out they have to go all the way back again.
My personal thought is the screen, could you just show that one again?
The anti-missile.
The sign, pardon me?
The anti-missile fencing?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, the very
Yeah.
last, at the very end.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay, one or two more.
Yep, I think it might be the last, if not the second to last one. You
There
go.
it is.
Yes.
That's not, what do I say? That's not a Falmouth look.
Anti-terrorism.
It's a, I think I see those in Ashmont when I go in town. I don't know. I'm looking at that. Is there anything else available?
It's our standard, fencing system on bridges. To deviate for that and still have the protection for down below, it would be difficult.
Is there going to be a walking area on this bridge?
No,
No.
no sidewalks.
So, I mean, I understand putting that fencing in when there are sidewalks because someone might be walking and throw something off the bridge.
Yep.
But on a complete driving bridge, is it as necessary to?
Yeah, I mean, we can consider it.
You mean not having it?
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's,
In missile is not.
let me talk to our consultant and make sure he's on board with that.
This has nothing to do with terrorism, it's just
Right.
missile is something.
Yeah, any rocks thrown or anything
not.
like that, yeah, right.
Peter,
No.
you're not aware of any time anyone has been hurt in that particular place by any sort of missive?
No, I do know that that road does get a lot of runners. People run over that bridge. I don't know so much about pedestrians, but a lot of the runners, so.
And the other thing that we do have with the fencing too is just as a protection to the gas company, the gas main on the, what is it, the west side.
Yeah, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the DOT does not allow utilities to go through their bridges anymore. It has to be detached.
But in this type of structure, it's just difficult because it's a slab.
Right.
It's not like you have, you know, beams and you can fit the utility through the beam, so you can't do that.
But a protection for the utility could be much less obtrusive. It wouldn't have to be an 8-foot-high fence.
Yeah. Yeah, we can work it out.
Thank
We can
you.
work it out, no problem.
Is there anything we can do for the people who live like on Cash Lot Lane to get home from town?
Oh.
I mean, they're going to be going all the way up to Brick Hill Road is the only way they can get there, right?
During that construction,
That
during those
32
construction weeks, yeah.
And that's 32 weeks,
33 weeks.
33 weeks. That, you know, getting from Cash Lot downtown isn't that bad because you go up to 28, but otherwise to get home, it's going to be a long detour for those people.
Right now, Acapescat is a very long, Acapescat is shut down.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Are we having a vote on encouraging this?
Yeah. Is it a vote?
I think it'd be a good idea to support the replacement of the wooden bridge on Palmer Avenue so they can time it as best they can. I think the earlier we give them approval of it, the better they can schedule it to work around all the different projects we have going on.
I'd move approval with a less obtrusive fence.
Anti-missile fence.
Yes.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A lot of weighted effort.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Did not go that way.
Next is a report from Ray Jack, our DPW Director, on both the water and wastewater projects. Still executive session after this, too.
And I'm
Please.
Thank you and good evening, but I don't see the presentation up there, and I put it in myself this afternoon.
The one at the top, that's not it?
That's it's EDIC.
Oh.
Right, that was theirs.
Is that it?
Can you do a search?
There it
maybe?
is.
Oh, okay.
I came prepared anyway, it's on my thumb drive, so.
Oh.
Wouldn't have been a critical failure. Thank you very much. Forgive my voice this evening, it's a little hoarse. I don't know why. I think I might be picking up a cold, but nonetheless. This will be a report this evening on the Long Pond Filtration Project as well as the Little Pond Sewer Service Area Project for the month of July. I do understand we are at August 24th, so what I'm going to attempt to do on both of these presentations is carry it through the month of July, but also let you know about where we are now on both of the projects, so that you stay up with it. Just a little reiteration, Methuen Construction is the general contractor on the Long Pond project. Construction administration and design was handled by Tate and Howard, CH2. And superintendent here is Steve Rafferty, and Mr. Rafferty is here this evening. So we have a contract duration of 730 days, and we've expended about 13% of the time on that. There are 634 days remaining. Contract value is about $41 million. So far, we have actually paid them $4,140,000, so it's about 10% of the project funds. And I will try to be a little bit quick this evening. I realize the time. Approved change orders. At the present time, we don't have any that were actually approved, but there are several pending change orders, so that in the end, we're talking about probably a net credit over 4 change orders that may result in a $600,000 credit to the town. So that means that the actual changes, instead of being a positive value, will be a negative value. But of course, there will be change orders in the future that are going to go the other way. This is the graph that you'll see every month. The yellow represents the projected expenditures for the project, and it's fairly consistent over time. And then down here in the left-hand corner, for the third month of the project, you see the blue, so it's just a little bit under what the projected values were as far as what we have already paid on the project to date. So for July, on the access road, that bulldozer up there is actually laying down the gravel base on the access road, so the gravel was laid and compacted, and then they were going to be installing the base coat, which has actually also occurred, but that wasn't in July. Then along both sides of the road, reserved for utilities and appurtenances, so we had duct banks installed in June for the electric utilities. These duct banks here are for the lighting and communication duct banks that were installed, and you can't see them in the picture, unfortunately. 7 structural pours were done for the sump area, and the sump area here is that area right back in here on the project, and I have a couple of larger photographs that'll show it a little bit better, but the pump sump areas is where the pumps are going to be for both the backwash tanks and the plant discharge from the wet well area, which I'll also show on another slide. So that represented about 600 cubic yards of concrete, and we started the underslab piping for the ozone contactor, and during August there's other underground piping that is being done as well. And on the depiction of the actual plant, the artist's rendition at the end of this slide doesn't show where the ozone contactor is, but it's a separate structure that's located actually behind the building itself. So you'll have the main plant, and then the ozone process will occur in the back. So for the month of August, the base coat is actually down, and there'll be another course that will go on top of that, which will be the final paving course, and that will occur much later in the project. The access road on the sides will have some of the landscaping done over the next couple of months to try to take advantage of the weather. So a lot of the underslab piping has already been installed. They're going to be working on forming the foundation slabs and the walls, and then in the next several months, you'll actually see the walls of the building starting to form. The transformer was supposed to be installed in August, but it hasn't yet been installed. But they were supposed to install and energize it, but I expect that that'll happen very shortly. This picture down, or this picture up top here, that area back there was part of the sump area of the pump system. And then here on the left, within the rebar area, you can see some of the piping being installed here. And then this is just another shot of the walls going up with the rebar on it. So this is a larger picture, I think, that shows a fair amount more. On the left-hand side, over here, this here is where the area all the way over to the left would be underground tanks, an 800,000 gallon tank for the finished water for the plant. And then up here in this upper reach on the left-hand side would also be 2 other tanks that are 200,000 each, and that would be for the backwash system. Then this represents the sump area that we were discussing, and the plant will start to get constructed along this wall going back in this area here, so that's the physical area of the plant. This is just a blown up slide of the other smaller picture that you saw, where you can see the piping starting to be installed along here within the reinforced areas. This is a broader view of about where we are. We're a little bit ahead of this now, but this right here, this black strip that you see here is waterproofing, part of the waterproofing that is going down, and there's a fair amount of waterproofing that's going to be done in a number of areas of the plant. This particular material here is known as bentonite clay, and for those who would be curious about its waterproofing capabilities, this is also a product that was used on the tunnels in Boston to fix a lot of the leaks. So bentonite clay was very effective at that. Believe it or not, bentonite clay is also an additive in a treatment plant process as part of a coagulation flocculation process, because it's known as a weighting agent when it comes to treatment processes. But there'll be a fair amount of that material that will be going in here as well. And then this whole area up in here is actually starting to form the inside of the plant. And on the other side of this wall, where the pump area is, on the other side of the wall, you can see the base coat for the 800,000 gallon tank. And then from an artist rendition perspective, that buried tank would be underground here, and the pump area that we would be looking at would be in this vicinity here. And then over in this area is where the filters for the plant would go. Over in this area here would be the dissolved air flotation devices that remove a lot of the suspended material that would be in the water. So the plant process actually goes from the right to the left. The water would come into the building here, go through the dissolved air flotation process, through the filtration process, and then ultimately it would go out into the clear well.
Okay.
So Ray, in looking at this building and thinking of what we saw today, where would the ozone place be there?
Actually, if you were to go through the front door and go straight through the building in the back, it would be in the back.
In the back of that?
Right, in the back. And there's also a generator for the plant, so it can be self-sustaining. So that too is going to be in the back.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Great tour today, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. For the sewer, Little Pond Sewer Service Area Project. Contractor is Bobby Hour Construction. It's a very good contractor for the job. GHD affected the design and is also performing construction administration. And Mr. Jerry Patamas is the superintendent in charge, assisted by Amy Lowell. The contract duration here, and this represents an adjustment to 790 days, because on the last report it was 730 days. That was incorrect, because that was going to a substantial completion date when the town would actually have the benefit of the project. But the total project is 26 months, not 24, so it's actually 790 days. So we're about 10% into the project as far as the time goes. Construction value is $20.5 million. We paid them as of now $1.3 million, and that's about almost 7% of the construction value of the project. We don't have any approved change orders to date, but there are several change orders that are in the mix. There are at least 3 at the present time. The request for information and field orders. The requests this period were 4, the field orders to date were 4, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were for the same period. Field orders are a way of affecting a communication between the town and the contractor on an interpretation of an issue, if you will, and how something is supposed to be done. So it doesn't necessarily constitute a change order, but can be. As far as the schedule of values here go for the cash flow, down here on the left-hand side, it's a little difficult to see, but in the second month of the project, that represents what we have paid to the contractor to date based on what the projected flows are going to be. For July, the site work were Russell Road, the main line sewers were installed, and most of the laterals. In the top picture up here, that is a picture of Russell, and you can see the trench that's over here, and it's been asphalted back after repair, or after the installation was done. Then they were going to begin on Alma Road, Young Road, Lake Lehman. And I'll get into those in a little bit, but that's what July was supposed to be. Also, the town is coordinating with GHD and Bobby Hour with the gas company on gas main replacements in the area. The gas mains are about 2 inches in diameter, so they're not large. They have to go down approximately 3 feet, but there are a number of roads in both the Mara Vista Peninsula area as well as the Falmouth Heights area where they are going to be going in and installing the gas mains. I did want everyone, and especially the board, to understand as far as the gas main work goes, that getting it in now while this contract is underway is absolutely the best way to proceed with it, and especially given why the gas mains are being replaced. They're being replaced because they have a history of leakage on these particular mains. Having heavy construction in the area doesn't do it any benefit. It only makes that problem worse. So we're coordinating with them to make sure that that work takes place at the same time. Therefore, after the whole project is complete, the gas mains are also complete, and we can finish up with final paving on the roads. So for August, they were already on Alma Road. They were going to be doing Young Road and continuing on it, and continuing the main installation on Lake Lehman. And I've got a map at the end of this project to try to show you where they are on these various roads. So I'll just run this through rather quickly. Also for this month, Johnson, Raymond, Holland, and Worcester Court beginning main installations on. Holland Street is done. Johnson, they have not started yet. They just have the entrance for it. Raymond hasn't been started yet, but some of Worcester Court has. And they also have another crew that's down doing the low pressure mains in the lower portion of Falmouth Heights, down on Grand Ave and Elysian. So they do have Grand Ave done for the most part. So that work is going to be going on concurrently here. This was the photo that I had used last time. I wanted to get another month out of it. Okay, I think it was very effective at trying to show just how difficult some things can be. But this here is, oops, it did the same thing the last time.
I think the temperature in the room affects it.
Unfortunately, I had to run through them all in order to get to it. I just tried to go in reverse and won't do it. But it is necessary to get to the road map to see where everything is. So for perspective, we have Falmouth Heights Road running along the bottom here, Russell Road running up. That was completed as far as the main installation. On Alma here, they started Falmouth Heights, and this is all done up to about Raymond. So they're at this point here, and they're going to be continuing on right down to the end. For Jericho Path, this portion of Jericho Path was done, and Jericho continues off to the right. No work has been done over here, but they're continuing on Lake Lehman. Lake Lehman right now is down here in the Worcester Court area, and they'll be continuing across and going all the way to the end of that. Young Road, the main installation was complete up to there. Holland was done. Johnson is just getting started at this point, and then they'll be jumping over to Hudson and Raymond and doing these. Down here along Grand Ave from Elysian, at least at this intersection here, this main is in, down to about Hawthorne. Yeah, down to about Hawthorne. Then they'll be coming back and they'll be doing Elysian and the side roads on this. And the blue represents low pressure mains that are going in. So you have low pressure going in here and down here. And then all the red represents the gravity mains that are going in. And of course, as you can see at different points, just like right here is a junction between the blue and the red. So that is a point where the low pressure is connecting into the gravity. And the same thing is true up here. You can see the low pressure connecting into the gravity here and here. So the expectation is that all of that will be done by the end of the year, hopefully, sometime thereabouts, and then they will be moving progressively into Maribest, and we'll be able to start considering activating this system beginning in 2016. Okay.
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Sure. Next item on our agenda is discuss and vote the request for a special event permit fee waiver. We've heard this a few times. Does the board feel they have information and we need to have this discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I would like to consider making a broad policy. There are so many nonprofit organizations that would benefit from a coordinated, published policy, as opposed to every single time somebody coming up and reinventing the wheel. Also, people would be able to know for their planning what to expect. We have a special policy for weddings. Something else I forget that we have. There was an example in the packet of another special policy. So I think that that it deserves more discussion, and I'd like to do it as soon as possible. I'd like to consult town council, and rather than do it on a case-by-case basis.
So your suggestion is that we come up with a policy on the fee for a nonprofit organizations and apply it retroactively to this case?
Right, in Falmouth.
So we're just talking about fees? Right.
And why do you think that? Give me some reasons.
Because there are a lot of nonprofit organizations. For example, West Falmouth Library is here.
Okay.
There are so many organizations in town that do a lot for the community that could use the argument that should give them a break on the fees if they have a local benefit to Falmouth. The Falmouth Service Center, for example, has a very broad benefit to the town. So I think that that's something that we should look at it on a town-wide basis in terms of nonprofits. So organizations, when they come in for the permit, I mean, you've been here probably 6 times or something.
Did you miss me last
I
time?
forgot. And so I think it's important to have a comprehensive review and to publish a policy. And then we can apply retroactive. They're not going anywhere.
There's got to be a purpose of why the town is charging these fees. There's got to be a reason that the town is providing some service, whether you're nonprofit or you're profit. And it costs the town each time someone's using some part of the town, whatever it might be. And if there's police and there's fire and things that are needed to protect whatever agency uses any part of our town, that fee would be placed towards that. I mean, no one can have an activity in the town without it costing the town money. So if it seems it's very innocent, it seems as if, well, how could this cost the town? It's each time any of our services that are going to be used, the town is incurring some cost. The one group that I would absolutely talk about would be the for-profits. I do believe when some, for-profit comes into the town, uses whatever it is they want, and they pack up their tent and they go off somewhere else. Now, I really would have a discussion on that. But I believe that the people of the town deserve the money that comes into the town on any activity. And Falmouth taxpayers, if you take away that money, Falmouth taxpayers make up the difference. So whatever money comes from fees and permits and everything else that's on the record, if that isn't there, then taxpayers would make up the difference. And that would be my reason that there's fees and that need to be charged for every single event. And the waiver system, I just say that they're, just like we did this evening, we tried to make each thing fair for each person that we had to make a final decision about their livelihood. I believe that when someone uses part of our town, it costs us money. And that's what fees and permits are for.
Well, I think if we want to have that discussion, we should have it, but tonight we have to deal with the request before us too. And I do agree that we should really look at it probably a little more thoroughly than we have, so that we don't have to come up with these where there's an event that comes before us that doesn't fit into any category. We should try to find a way to make them fit into something so that we don't have to be reviewing these all the time. And that's your point, isn't it?
It is, and therefore
I agree with that.
But I'm making a motion to defer our decision tonight pending having the policy.
But I don't think we could do that because these, could we ask?
And Doug explained that we basically just defer it.
But we already have an application in to hold these events through Labor Day, I believe, which is only, 2 weeks away? Yeah, so I think we need to decide on that and not defer that.
We're just talking about the fee. And we've already approved these events happening.
Oh, so yours are already approved. The question is, but I thought you've already paid the fee once.
I did pay the $75 for the initial fee on July 5th.
Right.
And $300 deposit. So those two checks went in. And then I didn't have one on the 12th because of the triathlon, and then I came back on the 19th to ask for the waiver, and that's.
Oh, I see. So we're talking how many do you still have left? 2?
I have the 23rd, the 30th, and Labor Day.
3 more left. And how many previous?
30th and Labor Day, 2 more.
2 more.
How many should you have been charged?
Well,
how many numbers of times?
I will have done 8 beach services this summer.
So we have time to defer until we have.
So we defer the fee on this application as well.
Until the policy.
Until the policy.
And I would expect you not to return. We'll let you know what the policy is retroactively.
Okay. And can I just share with you just a couple things in thinking about all of this, because it just addresses a couple things that you had. One, just to let you know, we've had 50 to 75 people every Sunday, even on the rainy, misty Sundays that we've had, and have heard only positive comments about it. I don't know if you saw the article in the Cape Cod Times a few weeks ago, but it spoke very highly of the beach service, not only here, but other ones that are around the Cape. It was a very good article. And just to share with you a comment from a summer resident in Sippawisset that was quoted in the article, she said, "I was incredibly happy to consider worshiping at the beach. It's spiritual for me being at the beach. That's why I summer here." And today, in today's mail, I got a card from a woman from Connecticut who took the time to write me a note to say thank you. And she said, "The worship service at Surf Drive Beach was a peaceful and joyful event on Sunday." So obviously, this is creating a lot of goodwill, a lot of good publicity. It's only contributed to the positive image and reputation to the town of Falmouth, all of which you cannot pay for in that way. It also, I mean, you talk about using resources. The staff is already in place at Surf Drive Beach. All we do is park the car, do our thing, and leave. So we're really not using any additional resources from the town while we're there. I just think, you know, as this farmer's market or the art market, that is a summer event, that's a quality of life event. I just see that this fits into those categories, and just want to share with you a lot of the goodwill that's happening for the town of Falmouth because of this.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's going to make our discussion that much more difficult because at the same time, there isn't any real town service that you receive for this, and yet the benefits that your church, the members of your church provide to the town, like just hosting Falmouth Eats Out those nights. I mean, that's a huge benefit to the town. And you don't.
We love to do.
Yeah, right. And you don't ask us to pay you for doing that. So it's going to be a very difficult discussion to have, but I think we have to have it and just come down with some kind of a decision one way or the other. Okay.
So we're okay with proceeding with the idea of we'll come up with a policy that will then apply to this and not vote on this at this time.
That's my motion.
Right.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Well, I have a motion. Are we going to get a second? And then
I'll second. Well, your motion is just to defer everything.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. I'd just like to point out that anyone else that comes and uses any town property for any, whether it be the art show, farmer's market, or whatever, they're going to use it, they're going to pay their $100, or, well, let's say it's $100, and they're going to use it for 8 or 10 hours. I mean, she won't use 8 or 10 hours in the whole summer. So I think that arithmetic should also be considered in the equation when you do decide, and as it's been stated, I mean, she uses no services for her service. And I think that should all be considered.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Your motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? One.
Opposed.
Thank you.
One other quick question. When I'm thinking about the future, because obviously I've enjoyed doing this and would like to be able to do it again next year, when might be a good time to come back, and you'll see me one more time, to ask for next summer? Is it better to see you in the fall, winter?
Asking
spring?
for the permission or for the fee?
Permission for 2016.
Please make sure it's at least 60 days before the first one you want to have. So it can go to the
Well ahead of time, then.
special event group and then.
Very good. Thank you very, very much.
Great, thank you.
Next is a question for a sign variance from the West Falmouth Library for a promotional sign. This is the second sign on their property. It has been approved by the Historic District Committee, so it does not go to the Design Review Committee, but it does come to us still. Mr. McGaffrey still here, or?
Pamela Olson, Library Director.
Charles McCaffrey.
Charlie McCaffrey, Building Committee Chair.
The sign was approved by the Historic District Commission. They liked the design very much. And I was informed by the Planning Department that I needed to come to you to ask permission for variance because it's the second sign on the property, and it's not going to be a temporary sign in terms of the definition. It probably might be up as long as a year.
Why do you need a sign?
This is a promotional sign. We just went to our public phase of our capital campaign, and we want to let the public be aware of where we are in the fundraising towards our goal. And I hope you have a picture, but you might not.
So you're suggesting it's neither temporary nor permanent, right?
We don't have a
Correct.
picture.
Correct.
Right.
And the historic district said, you know, if we need it longer than.
Do you have a picture?
I don't have a picture. Here, can we pass this?
Certainly.
Basically,
that's
we're,
great.
it's a, instead of doing a thermometer, we're doing a stack of books, indicating where we are in the capital campaign. It is public phase now. We do want to let the community know, because we need their support, obviously, to reach a goal, and also to show progress with the goal that we're making.
And I understand it'll be-
And the sign is how large?
It's within the 8 square feet.
It's within the 8 square feet.
The historic
So the
district.
variance is really a second sign, is
Correct.
it?
Yeah.
Not the sign itself?
No, the sign's been approved by the historic district. It's free, it's for a variance for
Yeah.
the,
Motion to approve.
And it'll be painted as you move up.
correct.
Right.
We're at 1.8 million.
Okay.
So
It'll go up, showing
you're up to the 2.9.
As we
what
grow.
we have to do.
Yeah, that's what we need to get to.
And what is the capital campaign, what's the money going to accomplish once you get it all?
Well, a major renovation and restoration of the library. We're adding an addition. We're renovating a 1972 addition. We're restoring, with some assistance from the CBC, the original 1896 building, and we're adding significant outdoor space in terms of the deck, terrace, and other grounds improvements to create a park-like atmosphere.
This is following up with the land swaps that we did a while ago to
Correct.
Yes.
do this. Well, we've had a motion. Do I have a second to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very
None?
much.
Okay,
Thank you for staying
Look forward to seeing
for the
that.
night.
Next, a request for a sign variance. This is for off-premise promotional signs for the Gosnold David Lewis 5K Run Walk on September 5th, 2015. I don't think we have anybody here from that. I have no problem with this. I would be happy to approve them. I just wish they weren't up already. You know, if they're going to put in for the application and understand their law, then to put them up before we approve them troubles me, but not enough to, I would, to deny
Yes.
the application.
Sometimes it's left hand doesn't know what right hand. They have different people assigned to do different things, but of course, I'll move approval.
And what is the event? I can't find it on here.
It's the 5K walk run.
Oh, the 5K
Okay.
walk, okay. So I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, the ayes have it.
Oh, there it is.
And do we have any
Didn't see
individual
it,
selectmen's
actually.
report?
Not tonight, thank you.
I'm going to report on two things, unfortunately, for our timing. But one is that I did go to the Cape Cod Commission last week on the hearing about the Marriott Spring Hill Suite, and I read the letter that you've all seen. Rebecca was also there. And in addition to reading the letter, I also responded to the lawyer from the applicant who accused us of holding a hearing on the Marriott and inviting them at the last minute, and was upset that I had not read the letter that they had sent. I responded that it was not a hearing, that we had not decided on holding the meeting until Monday, and so we couldn't invite them before Tuesday, as we did, and that I'd received one letter from them, again, in favor of it, and we'd received about 45, 50 letters opposed, and I didn't meet any of them. I was a little distressed by his unwillingness to come and visit us when, if the project is that important, he should have been here. And the terminology he used is talked about being nauseated by the number of responses from the community is what scares me about an organization like that's response to the town. And then that was on Wednesday. Also last, what's the other Pasco report? Oh, that's enough. Any other reports?
There's a few, but let's keep moving.
Town manager report?
Mr. Chairman, a couple brief ones. I just wanted to alert the board that Heather and I are working with Diane Davidson on the final draft of the board's strategic plan document. We do anticipate review and consideration for approval by the board at your next regular meeting in September. And given the Labor Day holiday on Monday, September 7th, the board's next regular business meeting will be Monday, September 14th. As you recall, a joint meeting with the planning board has been tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, September 22nd. Also, I want to thank the Commonwealth for the $120,000 grant for design and permitting for a beach restoration project for Chappaquoit Beach in coordination with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to receive future dredged sand from the Cape Cod Canal. This would just put us in a position to accept that sand at such time as it would be dredged and allow that to move forward. So we appreciate that opportunity and that support. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
My second item was that I had met with Jim Fox to go over an agenda for the joint meeting. And it was a very good meeting. I think we'll have a productive meeting on September 22nd. And we've scheduled a 6 o'clock meeting here for us first.
Okay.
And then to just do some business that we might have.
Okay.
I would like to take a recess before I go into executive session, but I'm not sure exactly the protocol. I think I call a recess now.
Yeah, just call a recess.
And then we'll come back to the executive session.
Before you call the recess into the executive session, I have a question or a comment. Here you have listed under the executive session to consider terms and conditions of license with the Steamship Authority. I don't believe under the open meeting law that you've provided enough specificity here. I'm assuming that it's about the parking lot, but I would think that the people would like to know what exactly it is. As I say, I don't believe this is specific enough under the open meeting law.
Okay.
Is there any answer to that?
This is the only lease we have with the Steamship Authority.
Excuse me?
It's the only lease we have with the Steamship Authority is the parking lot.
Okay, well, the public doesn't really know that. I'm aware of that, but as I said, I don't think this is specific again, as it should be.
So you move to adjourn?
Recess.
Recess second?
I called it.
You call it, oh, okay, fine.